Let's do this thing, shall we? Super Chat is open. Thank you, Smithy, for kicking it off tonight. Vegas, April 22nd to 24th. We're going to beg Geraldine to come to that, too. Hopefully she will. Now it's time for the horns up. Let's do it. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for all of you tonight. As Geraldine Orozco returns, she brings us our Zen, our Chi, our Woo, and absolutely, we love her around here for the spiritual you. Then, in hour 3, the Swamp Dweller is going to join us. Duke from World Bigfoot Radio has another incredible story about Sasquatch and Mount St. Helens. We'll get into the Magic 8 Ball, the news, the thought of the Dave, a jam-packed show. And this is where we bring in the lovely and talented Geraldine Orozco for the spiritual you. And there she is right there, Geraldine. How are you, my friend? It's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello. Happy New Year. Happy Chinese Lunar New Year. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am very excited to be here, Dave. Thank you, as always.
Oh, that is absolutely fine. How have you been doing? How's your start to your new year?
It's fantastic. It's wonderful. Very busy, fired up for a year of exciting events. Hopefully seeing you soon in April, I hope.
Are you going to come to Vegas?
Many other things.
Are you going to come to the Vegas party?
Of course. I would love to come.
That is awesome. So for our fans listening all over the world, April 22nd to 24th, we are having a Spaced Out Radio fan gathering at the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas. It's a weekend of fun, talking with some of our guests like Geraldine, and I know Ben and Joe from UFO Garage are going to be there. There may be somebody from a television station in Las Vegas who covers UFOs there as well. And many, many others who will be hanging on out for a lot of fun and just talking about the good stuff. You can get some pictures, you could have a lot of fun, and we're going to probably do a live show on the Saturday with Lynn Wallington, who will be there. Oh, I'm just pumped. You just made my night! Made my night! Yes! Thank you.
It's so exciting, and I can't wait to meet our listeners. It's going to be so much fun.
I know. Geraldine, we always have new listeners who tune on in every time, and they're probably thinking, who is this lovely voiced lady who is talking with us tonight? You are somebody who is a professional, is somebody who has really joined the ranks of those who are very knowledgeable in this field, and whether it's ET contact, whether it's everything to do with, healing and health and wellness and taking care of your body, getting rid of all of those demons inside of us that hold us back. I mean, to watch your growth over the last number of years to be this strong, empowering figure in this field, did you ever think it would get to this point?
Not at all. Not in a million years. As a matter of fact, 7 years ago, if you asked me and told me I was going to be doing this, I would not believe you, because really at that time only very, very few people knew about my experiences in my life. So It is a true honor, and I think that it's by design. We are called to the work we're supposed to be doing, and the work I'm doing is not coming here and talking about this thing, but it's the internal work that we do, internal healing, the shadow work, and then through that process learning and hopefully being an example for others so that they can hold powerful light at this time of major transition that we're in the world, right? So the idea is to be able to inform ourselves and learn everything that we need to learn in order to embody our highest expression. And all the souls that have incarnated into this world at this time really are really powerful, courageous souls, because we are working through karmic contracts that transcend the physical, that go into past lifetimes, that bring in consciousness and healing into our ancestral lineages. So it's a really wonderful and blessed time to be here.
Geraldine, one of the things that I have been focusing on to start the new year is being more positive. I know it doesn't seem possible. Dave, how can you be more positive? But, what you see on this side of the radio is really a facade. And on the other side, I'm very introverted. I'm very, keep to myself. I have anxiety. I have depression that I battle. And, it's very hard to remain positive. But I'm trying to see the light and the good and manifesting. How powerful is manifesting for anything that you want in this world if you are seeking that positivity rather than always that black cloud that we always bring over top of our head?
Manifesting is a science. It's actually a science. There's a process to manifesting, and we just need to understand the mechanics of creation and embody those mechanics in order to manifest. So manifesting, we think, oh my God, it's this really big task that we have to visualize and imagine these things happening, but it's actually somehow more complex and at the same time simple. In that complexity, it can be very simple. It's a matter of activating in the body the crown chakra, okay? And the crown is where we are merging from the non-physical into the physical. So the more we be in the physical body, embody presence in the present moment, being aware of the five senses, aware of our senses, aware of our emotions, we can begin to control the physical plane. If we're outside of the body, if we're denying being in the present moment, if we're escaping our life challenges, experiences, and traumas, we're not going to get anywhere, because we're just going to keep reverting back to the same things that keep us in the same place. So we have to do the shadow work. And as we're doing the shadow work, begin to activate the body. And what's activated in the body is the intuition. Through the crown chakra, we can begin to manifest into the physical form. And how we manifest is actually through the emotions. So when our emotions are in a state of fear, when we are in a state of feeling helpless, when we are believing that we are worthless, when we have all these thoughts and programs, all we're doing is creating a vibrational antenna that's going to bring into our space more of that same kind of energy, same kind of experiences. So in order to change that, we need to change the emotions that we're feeling. And really, it's just a matter of completely being the master of this body and choosing in this present moment that you're no longer going to be dwelling on the past, being in a state of fear, doubting yourself. These are things that these are choices that we have to make. And once you make that choice, you can begin to kind of tune in to more expansive frequencies, more creative frequencies. The frequency of love, for example, is not just the emotion between couples. It's a state of being. It's a state of creation. And it is a state of absolute truth. So when you are embodying love, you are seeing all parts of yourself, the shadows, the parts that you hate, that you judge, that you love, and you're accepting them fully. Only when you are in that state of acceptance and full integration of yourself can you then begin to manifest and co-create. And this is really what the core of manifestation is about. It's about the control over the emotions, the awareness of your emotions, mastery over those emotions, and not becoming a slave to the cyclical ancestral patterns that, our entire family has gone through. If we look back at our history, the struggles that our mother and our father have had, we kind of see little patterns. And so the question is, how much are you embodying those same patterns that have blocked their abundance and their manifestation? So breaking those patterns is just a choice in the moment, in the present moment. And I guess what motivates you to make the choice from being in a state of sorrow and depression into a state of joy and creation is a powerful self-love. If you love yourself enough to feel compassionate enough to choose not to be in a state of suffering and creating more chaos in your life, you can begin to change those wheels of creation into your favor.
I love it.
And yeah, we're gonna go deeper into that too today, because some of the topics that we're touching on are going to touch a little deeper on that as well. Great way to start off.
I want to get into the dream side of everything, because I know you're big on, trying to write down your dreams, remember your dreams, manifest in your dreams, find the story and the message behind the dreams. How important is dreaming, and what does it tell us?
Yeah. So, dreaming has a really powerful function in that everything that our soul is not doing and achieving in the present, current life, waking state, it's doing in the higher realms. Okay. So we're multidimensional. We are constantly navigating infinite number of dimensional planes. We're just not aware of it. We're just very used to seeing what's in front of us, reacting to what's in front of us. And so in that process of reaction, we completely numb our senses, our fifth sense, which is more intuitive, more a feeling body. And so when we numb those senses out and get too entangled in the physical realm, we don't realize that we are constantly you're surrounded by, let's say, your grandmother, you're surrounded by your ancestors, you're surrounded by your ET friends, your angelic beings, whatever it is that you believe in. It's actually in your space. So what's dream time? Dream time, when the physical body now is disconnected from the physical entanglement of the everyday life, you're now resting the physical body and you begin to leave the body. So when you leave the body, couple things happen. Depending how much spiritual work you're doing, you'll probably be more lucid. That means that you're going to be aware of yourself in dreaming state. And oftentimes people with practice, with a strong spiritual practice, they begin to navigate and actually direct what happens in those dream states. What you're directing is not just an imaginary plane. You're actually directing activities that you're carrying out in these alternate dimensions. And it's incredibly important to notice, because the way that we project into those dimensional planes are things that are very stored deep within the subconscious and even the unconscious mind, in the collective unconscious. This is where we start tuning into all kinds of things that sometimes we can even see each other in dreams, and maybe we've never met before. You begin to enter and navigate these dimensional planes. So how do we navigate them is by waking up your awareness in your everyday life and practicing that in lucid dreaming. Usually what we're experiencing in dream time will come in as a metaphor, or it's going to be, some abstract experience. But actually the things that you're experiencing there are incredibly important. And some people can look at those dream books and they can get some information there. But my favorite way to navigate the information is to meditate on the dream and to connect with each piece of the dream, including colors, including the emotions that you're feeling. That's actually one of the most important. How are you feeling in that dream? Do you feel scared? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel happy? What colors do you see around you? What colors are you wearing? What's the environment look like? Is it dark? Is it full of light? All of these things say something, are giving you messages about your current psychological state, unconscious, subconscious, and they give us a little bit of information into what your soul, essentially your fragments of yourself, is doing in the outside levels. So there's a lot of important information. And also remember that a lot of contact activity happens in these dimensional planes. Dream time is we're accessing the 8th up to the 11th, 12th dimensional plane. And depending on the dimensional plane that you're accessing, you're going to encounter different kind of consciousness. You can encounter ET beings, angelic beings. When you're in the lower realms, you're going to, connect with people, your ancestors. You're tuning into the Akashic records, and tapping into information there as well. So there's a lot to unpack there, and a lot of information that it's important to you.
What if we don't remember our dreams? I can't tell you what I dreamt last night. I can't tell you what I dreamt the night before, 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I remember my last weird dream. I always remember the weird ones, especially when them little aliens are running around, but never anything else.
Yeah, so I would really pay attention to those weird dreams, because more than likely you're quite active in those dimensional planes, and notice the details that are occurring there. But a lot of time when you don't remember the dream, it really depends on how much on auto drive we are in our everyday lives, and how conscious we are. So if you're somebody that doesn't remember what you did, or this morning, or how you felt this morning, it means that you're lacking awareness in your daily life. We should be able to look at our lives from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, and be mindful of the emotions and the ways that we're experiencing. And that can only be achieved through momentary presence, checking in with yourself, your surroundings. And that's something that we can develop and train over time. Once this is developed, it goes into dream state. And you begin to become aware, and you will remember the dreams more, because you're exercising the sensory part of you. Because we the humans, we're like sponges, and we're constantly receiving information 360 degrees around the body at all times. As a matter of fact, even right now, the whole back of my body is recording what is happening behind me, but I'm not aware, because I'm speaking to you. If I'm omnipresent and aware of everything around me, I'm going to tune in and remember this space. And when we remote view, this is kind of what we're doing in essence. We're tuning into these localized spaces, okay? So in dream time, it's the same thing. If you're not aware of yourself, you're not going to remember the dream. And sometimes it's self-preservation, and sometimes it's in order to just disconnect from the things that you're doing in the altar plane. Sometimes you're actually carrying out your higher purpose in the altar plane, and your current life might be very difficult, very heavy on you, and we're very heavily involved emotionally. So the more that we lighten up our emotions and the entanglement emotionally with everyday life, it'll be much easier to remember your dream time.
I got to ask you, I'm watching your eyes right now. For our radio listeners, we are live on YouTube as well. I'm watching your eyes right now, and usually you are staring right into the camera. Today it looks like you're actually channeling the answers. Is that what you're doing?
I always try to be in channel state, actually, but the reason why is because I moved the camera. So if I do move this down, I'd probably be a little closer to the camera. So let me see.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You remind me a lot of Samantha Mowat. When Samantha Mowat goes into a deep answer, I can tell that she's not searching for the answer. She's just channeling it out and letting whatever comes into her brain come out of her mouth. And the words are very prophetic. They're very astute. They're very knowledgeable. And I find that same thing with you. And I really respect that. It's an honest answer.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it is channeled. Everything I speak tried to be channeled. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so back to dreams for a second. I know we have a couple of questions here in our audience already, and normally I wait till hour 2, Geraldine, but we're going to just get to them right now. And I love this question from DQ, and she didn't even bring ice cream for us. She says, so I heard that every hour of the night is important to our sleep patterns, so night jobs actually harm our sleep rhythm. Is this true?
It is true, but it kind of depends on where you were born, believe it or not, because wherever we're born, you're capturing a certain time zone, and you're capturing a certain snapshot of the universe, which creates a blueprint for your organism and the kind of circadian patterns that are most beneficial for your physical enhancement. Okay, so notice the time that you're born. If you're born at night or if you're born in the daytime, usually those people will be more like night owls, or some of them will be more morning people. So just notice those patterns. So for some people, even though the circadian rhythms of the earth are working in the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere specifically, and during those hours, the parts of the body repair in a special way. Every single part of the body is repairing. Every organ repairs during different hours of the night, usually between 10 and 2 a.m. Okay. Now, what happens when we do night shifts is that usually we're changing that whole circadian rhythm and the body has to readjust. However, just the way in the nighttime there's time to repair, in the daytime there is also time to repair. So just notice, pay attention to the body. If you're not recovering your sleep, if you end up having really heavy bags under your eyes, problems with your digestive system, then it means that you need to adjust the time that you're sleeping. And it might be just moving it an hour or 2 hours difference. Okay. For the general rule is that if you should sleep between 10 and 2 a.m. That this is the most restorative, at least for the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere as well, but at their time zone, right? And when you change locations around the world, the body will take time and it'll readjust to that location. So this is some way that you can kind of see, what works best for you.
All right, let's move on to another question. Sovereign is asking, Geraldine, why does the cosmos respond to our thoughts and intentions? Do you think it's God, false gods, or AI from an off-world subversive civilization?
Amazing question, and this is actually going into a little bit about what I'd love to talk about later tonight. But this is wonderful because the question is, are we interacting with something separate from us? Okay, what is God, right? The concept of God. And I when I'm working with clients, we always reach the point where we're questioning, who's in charge at the root of our core being, of our emotions, of our joy, of our love, of our happiness, of our connection to that source. And some people say God, right? But the question is, are you separate from that God? Or are you that God? Is that you? Is that source, infinite information of infinite consciousness, you? And the answer is yes, it is you. And so to kind of switch the way that we look at things when we are speaking out into the universe or into some higher form, we are speaking to ourselves, because the way that our bodies function is that we are a creative, co-creative hologram. In our multidimensional body is actually the entire universe. In the person sitting next to you, their entire universe is within their hologram. And when they speak out to their highest self, they're connecting to fragments of themselves within that universe that's constructed from their perception.
Geraldine, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break. I can't believe how quickly the questions from our audience are coming on in for you. I know they love you. And we're going to serve those questions up. Geraldine Orozco's The Spiritual You. GeraldineOrozco.com. Bay Area Meditation, San Francisco, California. We love Geraldine, and we'll be back right after this. Hold on, I got to get my hands. Is that a new rock on your finger?
No. Let's see.
Just making sure. Just making sure there was no secrets.
Just making sure.
I mean, I don't want to have many of our hearts broken around here. We're not ready for that yet. It's only February 1st.
February 1st, okay. How's the snow up there? Are you doing okay?
We got another 2 inches overnight. It actually started to melt, which is normal. It got up to about 3.5 feet. and then it's got icy, and then started to melt during the day, and then we got another 2 inches last night. And let's see, right now let's see, what? I know you always love this. What's the temperature in 100 Mile House? Right now it is minus 16 Celsius, or 4 degrees Fahrenheit. We're supposed to get snow tonight, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, sun and clouds Saturday. And, it's back into the plus temperatures as of Friday. Look at that.
Oh, great.
Look at that. The false spring has begun. The false, we literally call it false spring around here. We have to, because all of a sudden, it'll all of a sudden just go like we're like here, we're encroaching up, and then boom, down. That's the way it works.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and it happens till March, huh? Mm-hmm. Or sometimes April, actually. I remember last year, I think you guys had snow up until April.
It wouldn't end. End. I couldn't get into the forest the first 2 weeks of May.
I know. Gosh, I remember that. That's insane.
I know. It was crazy. I mean, I could just imagine what it's like, how you're freezing your legs off, right now at about 55 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. Let's check this out. What's the temperature in San Francisco?
It's so nice today.
What did I just say? 55? It's 58 Fahrenheit right now. Oh my gosh, I would be having to do this show right now in just my boxer shorts. Unpleasant as that sounds, it's true.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, we got quite lucky actually. It got really cold during Christmas and New Year's. I mean, it got down to the 30s, and that's pretty bad, right? But then it went back up again, thankfully. So, but I heard that in Florida they're having really bad cold weather to the point where little animals are dying. Did you hear that?
Yes. Well, every year in Florida, when it hits a cold streak, you got to watch walking under trees because the iguanas freeze and they fall to the ground, and they've been known to knock people out. Oh, it's only minus 30, almost minus 33 in Fahrenheit in Winnipeg tonight. So that's about minus 35 Celsius, 36 Celsius. Because our minus 40 and your minus 40 are the same.
Oh, okay. Oh, my God.
It's the first time they meet together is at minus 40.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cold. That one hurts.
That's too much. No.
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts. It really does.
Shout out to Winnipeg. Whoever's out there, please stay warm.
Yeah.
Don't go outside.
That's Vidman, our man Vidman.
Right there. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Wow. Vidman, please stay warm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Your hair looks great tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you speaking at Lorian's event this year or no?
No, I'm not. But I saw that you are. You are, right?
Yeah, I am. Why aren't you?
I don't know. I wasn't asked.
Weird.
But that's okay. I spoke at her conference so many times, though. So, she likes to mix things up a little bit.
I know. I hope we're going to go for dinner.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, so what date is it? I actually...
March...
Alan Steinfeld is coming for that conference.
March 25th to 27th.
Okay, got it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, dinner's on me.
Oh, no, you have to let me invite you because you're coming here to my town.
That's okay.
Please.
That's fine. I'll fight you for it. How about that?
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll take you somewhere really good in the city because is it at the South San Francisco again?
I think it's the same place. So, yeah, I'm a cheap date. Taco Bell will be fine.
No, we will do a little better than that, okay?
All right. I want to say a big thank you to Smithy ×2 and Lured In ×2 for the amazing super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on a monthly basis here on Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with the second half hour. Second half hour is kicked off on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott, sitting in SOR headquarters in the cold Canadian tundra. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Geraldine Orozco, The Spiritual You. We do it at the beginning of each new month, where we bring in the owner of Bay Area Meditation in San Francisco, California, to bring us and enlighten our chakras, lower our vibrations, or maybe we should hire them. Bring them up. I don't know. She's into the chi.
Raise the vibrations.
Raise them. We got to raise them. Not lower them. We got to raise them. See, I get confused with this stuff, Geraldine, but welcome back.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here again.
We got so many questions for you. Do you want to just run with audience questions right now?
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. So if you're in our YouTube chat room, you can put your questions in capital letters. We will get them to Geraldine. Fernando is asking. I love that name, Fernando. You can just tell he's good looking because of that name, Fernando. Oh, it's just a good looking name. All right. What happens to our consciousness, our feelings and senses, when we fully activate, align, and charge our chakras?
Okay, wow, super packed question. Consciousness. So let's define consciousness as the observer, the one that's observing this life experience. When we are experiencing life experiences from imbalanced chakras, we are in survival state. And therefore, all of our experiences are going to keep us in survival state. When we align, or when we clear the chakras. Now, the chakras are, let's see, how do I explain? They're holographic. They're spherical, first of all, around our entire body. They're layers of our body. They're holographic antennas. And they're also projections. So whatever we're experiencing in our everyday life, we are filtering through these different systems. And we're also co-creating and informing reality through our chakra system. Essentially, all that is real to you is what you are creating inside of your spherical reality. So when you align the chakras and when you start deprogramming traumas, ancestral baggage, all of this stuff that keeps you stuck from the root up to the solar plexus, you begin to be able to anchor more source, pure form consciousness through the body. Otherwise, it gets stuck. And usually people have traumas in the root chakras. It gets stuck either in the throat or in the heart chakra because we have heavy fragmentation. And therefore, we cannot embody source. What does that mean? You're not intuitive, you're suffering, you're feeling blocked. We go into a lot of heavy emotions that maintain us counterproductive. And we're repeating the same patterns over and over again. So clearing that out allows you to embody source. And what does that do to the consciousness? It now can observe from a place of neutrality. Your life experience becomes more fluid, you're more intuitive, and now you can actually create. So a lot of things are kind of falling into place when you're clearing them. They're incredibly important to clear, because those blockages actually manifest into physical illness over time. Aches, pains in the body, flus, all kinds of illnesses in the body are a cause of stagnant information. So it's very beneficial to clear that out.
All right, we got another question. This one from Toe Tag, who is asking, is it possible to change patterns of habits in between falling asleep at night and before fully waking up in the morning time?
Is it possible to change patterns of habits in between falling asleep? Yes, it is. There are a couple techniques. If I'm understanding your question correctly in terms of patterns, let's say, for example, and please correct me if I'm wrong. If you're not sleeping on time and you're not, being able to stay asleep during the most restorative hours of the night. You can train yourself in many different ways. You can either wake up super early and over the course of a month, change your sleeping patterns completely. And you can also help yourself sleep deeper into REM state by waking yourself up in intervals throughout the night, believe it or not, as painful as that sounds, putting on an alarm and in intervals waking up and then going back to sleep again to allow and train your body to go into deep sleep, deep sleep, deep sleep. And over the course of 30 days, you're going to be able to reach a much deeper state of REM. And this REM is the most restorative wavelength that the brain can go into for the entire body to restore and heal. This is really important for the healing of the telomeres, of our genetic information, and restoring and regenerating everything from collagen to rebalancing the imbalanced hormones in the endocrine system. So all of these things are incredibly important, and we can begin to really train that. Another way to do that is in your dream time, training yourself to become lucid as much as possible. So again, setting an alarm, go ahead, fall asleep. Notice what time you usually start dreaming as much as you can. I know sometimes it's hard, but with practice you can. And as you begin to dream, you're going to put your alarm and it'll wake you up during that time and make yourself conscious. You can imagine grounding yourself, coming fully in your body, and then fall back asleep. And it's going to bleed into that dream time. With practice, you're becoming more and more aware. Okay, so yeah, just a couple tools that you can use.
Okay, let's move on to another question here from Ian over in the UK. Dreaming, nightmares, realizing you're naked in a public place, example, airport. What is this all about?
Yeah, that's a really, really common question when it comes to feelings of insecurity. So being naked, of course, is the most vulnerable state that we can be in, especially in public. So subconsciously, what part of us is fearful of vulnerability or intimacy? And the intimacy can be with another person or it can be with yourself. Okay, so it has a lot to do with control. Are we always trying to control ourselves, our image, the way things are happening outside of us? Think about how much time and life force it takes in our life, and think about how much of a pattern that is in your ancestral lineage. You know, mother, father, is this something that's a big theme in the family? The control of image, the control of, what you're doing or how you're being perceived. All of that bleeds into that. And so what we want to do is begin to work on that core part that feels insecurity, shame, of any parts of us that we can classify as impure or not divine, in other words. So we want to, this is also working with intuitive aspect because it's about the divine feminine. The divine feminine asks us to come into our most vulnerable state and allow yourself to be in a state of flow. So how much difficult time do we have coming into that flow state? Assist yourself in that. Support yourself by checking in with yourself and noticing how you can feel more comfortable in states of vulnerability. Okay, that usually has to do with acceptance. So that's an important dream.
All right, Nicole is wondering, what does it mean if you have lots of nightmares or just really weird, never very nice dreams?
Fantastic question, and I do get this a lot. And I notice that when we are doing spiritual work, so there's two reasons why this can be happening. First of all, one of them is that you're not doing any spiritual work at all, and you're really, really stagnant. You're holding on to heavy emotions, you're holding on to a lot of fear in your everyday life, and you're in constant survival mode. So then that projects into the altar planes as more of these, okay? The other part of it is you're doing a lot of spiritual work. Also, when you reach deeper levels of clearing and you start uprooting some old traumas, old karmic programs, karmic contracts of experiences, you're going to begin to see some of these darker shadow aspects of yourself. This is how people begin to uncover my lab experiences, really dark ET agendas and contact experiences, because you're really undoing the layers of the subconscious mind. So, in other words, we have to train ourselves to be able to navigate all these different planes and be able to stay neutral in those experiences. So my suggestion is to create a really strong energetic hygiene practice where you're cycling energy through the body, clearing out stagnation, and trying to come into a state of neutrality or love as much as possible throughout the day. And that will immediately change the kind of experiences that you're having in dream time.
Excellent. Mennonite Abe would like to know, what is the best way to learn how to meditate?
Meditation is a way of life. It's not just a practice that we sit down and meditate for an hour. All of it is based in mindfulness. Okay, so if it's difficult for us to be mindful and present and observant of ourselves and our surroundings at all times, we have too much of a busy mind. It means we're way too connected to technology or any kind of external reaction. Basically, we're in survival mode. So the idea is to train yourself to gently pull out of survival mode into a state of observation. And so we can begin to do that by bringing ourselves into the present, just checking in to your five senses. What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What are you sensing around you with your eyes open? And bring yourself into the body. Okay, and instead of getting stuck in the feeling sensations of things, because we get very fascinated and stuck with sensations and we judge them, we categorize them, this drains a lot of life force and it confuses us from what's real, because we think the sensations are real. They're not. They're just temporary information. What's real is the observant and what you're receiving from those experiences. So this really allows you to kind of train yourself to begin to decide, what you're going to experience. So this is a really powerful way that you can start working on that.
Okay, let's go over to Calliope. I love that name, Calliope. Very beautiful.
Yeah,
Is gender both physical and spiritual? Hello, Dave. Hi, Calliope.
Is gender both physical and spiritual? Great question. No. Gender is purely physical. However, there is a design behind that. And how we choose the sex that we're going to take in the physical body depends on karmic cyclical patterns and which one of those two energies are most out of balance in your ancestral lineage. Okay, so let's say you come from a highly patriarchal lineage, and this feminine energy is very compressed, very suppressed in the family. There's so much shame around sex and all this stuff in your bloodline. So the soul reincarnates into the bloodline. And let's say that the child is born a female, okay? And so the child comes into incredibly challenging circumstances where she is shamed for her femininity or all these different scenarios that cause her to feel rejection towards the feminine. Her job in that lineage is to break away from that and rebalance the perception of the feminine. Okay, so it's really important. And it's very much linked to many different parts of you as you come into the earth. We are experiencing 13 main archetypes of vibrational frequency on earth, and we're going to be experiencing dualistic, both sides of those 13 frequencies. You can say astrological signs, and even frequencies of energy that go from the lowest up to the highest vibrational frequency. Even those have duality. So we're going to experience the feminine and masculine side of both of those 13 dimensional planes. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So that's a really fantastic question.
All right. Jakes wants me to say to you, hi. That's it.
Oh, hello.
Hi. That's it. No, it's not. It says, hi, Dave. Tell Geraldine I said hi. No, we did. That was a good question.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Lone Wanderer is saying, can you please think of me the next time you astral project? I need guidance because I've only projected once.
Yeah, absolutely. So my suggestion is before you go to sleep, go ahead and close your first 3 chakras and open your heart, your throat, and your third eye. And this will begin to train your intuition. Okay, so when you're in that state, you're going to create a protective field around your body. And you're going to take yourself up to the 11th dimensional plane. And this is specifically for you. Actually, it's not for everyone. Every single person has their own dimension that they're coming in from, the most recent incarnation. For you, it's the 11th dimensional plane. So go ahead and take yourself up to the 11th dimensional plane. And as you fall asleep, allow yourself to navigate. And every night, every morning, you're going to write down whatever it is you experience, even if it seems completely ridiculous or not important. And that's how you're going to train yourself. Okay?
Awesome. Dawn would like to know, do you have any suggestions on stopping night terrors?
Yes. What needs to be done for this is really profound shadow work. Okay, so what it means, usually how these night terrors develop is in early infancy from the womb until the age of 11 primarily. Okay, programming is up until the age of 7, but when trauma continues until the age of 11, usually it solidifies in the subconscious body and the nervous system becomes fragmented. And so what happens is that we end up having night terrors as a result of that. And you might not even remember the original scenario that caused the trauma because of the level of trauma that it causes. So it's important that when you're working around there, notice the emotion that you felt most as a child. If it's a lot of fear and insecurity and feeling unsafe, notice what you need in order to feel safe now. Right now, we are all going through major changes in the world, so a lot of us are feeling kind of, up in the air, uncertainty, all kinds of things like this. So, it becomes a little bit more challenging. So be very compassionate with yourself and take a look at the parts of where you're bringing fear into your everyday and work with that information. Support yourself. If you do need support, please reach out to me. Of course, we can work on some of that through DNA reprogramming or even hypnotherapy, if that seems better for you. But shadow work, okay?
Shadow work. All right. Vin Man wants to know, what does it mean when you lucid dream so much it literally feels when you close your eyes in this world, you awaken in a life in another dimension every single night? So, Vinland, first of all, specifically for you, you're highly fragmented in a very interesting way in that you're able to navigate these planes because you've been a part of like a lot of different programs because of your specific DNA. Okay, so this is something that I noticed, and I actually had a client today that we talked about this. Old bloodlines, depending on how old your bloodline, you have a lot of history on this plane. So if you have been incarnating here for a long time and you've been cultivating, preserving your bloodline in a specific way, you're usually really involved in these kinds of non-terrestrial programs like hybridization, like MyoLab, like all kinds of these kinds of programs, okay? So what it means is that you're highly trained in your genetic lineage. So you're going to have a lot of activity in dream time. Now, notice what's happening in that dream time because all of that is very real to you. But because you remember it, it means something else. It means that you have the ability of integrating from those experiences. So what I'd like for you to do is as soon as you wake up in the morning, I want you to meditate on what you experienced that night before with all of the people that played a role. And I want you to break contracts one-on-one. Notice the scenario. What's the emotion? What's the scenario? Is it something that's bleeding in from your current lifetime? Is it a similar scenario, similar feelings and sensations?
break those contracts and begin to reintegrate fragments of yourself from those experiences every single night. And soon enough, you'll be able to change what you're experiencing and never stop lucid dreaming, but you're going to be choosing scenarios that are more constructive for you, that are enjoyable, and that will be free feeling. Okay, because if these dreams are more constricting right now, they're limiting your expansion. So you need to work beyond them. And so this is really important when you're doing this kind of lucid dreaming. Okay.
Does that also work with experiencers who have recurring contact, say every night, every couple of nights, couple times a week?
It does. And the thing is funny because we want to continue evolving. We think ET contact is the end all, but remember that we are 13-dimensional planes with infinite consciousness available to us. So if we get too stuck and have repetitive events continuing to happen, we're not progressing beyond those dimensional planes. And because you can remember that contact, it means that you need to do that work. That's what you're there. That's why you keep coming there. And another thing is, timeline-wise, when we're having dreams, a lot of times we're tuning into the past. And, okay, time is not linear. It's simultaneous. However, the way we perceive it in the earth plane, we think what's happening right now, but it's actually things we've already agreed to, things that are already happening. Sometimes we're tuning into other timelines. So we have to work with what's necessary in that moment, change it, heal it, reintegrate, and keep moving, experience more things. So that's really important for the soul to continue moving.
All right, we've got 2.5 minutes. Let's sneak in another question from Witchy, who is way down there in New Zealand, asking any advice on remembering dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Remembering dreams is a training that you're doing from the observer self, the subconscious mind. Okay, how do you train the subconscious mind to become awake? You train it during the daytime. So, for example, in the daytime, are you aware of yourself? So, right now, do you know what you're feeling? Do you know how your leg is feeling? How your toes are feeling? Are you aware of your body? Okay, so bring into full body awareness. Practice grounding, protecting, aligning, co-creating. We talked about this before. Learn how to do energetic hygiene. And when you're dreaming, you're going to be able to be aware in that state as well. And you'll be able to record more. Also, it's important to do shadow work as well for this purpose, because when we're too much in survival mode, you won't be able to access the part of your memory that remembers these things. And memory is not a localized thing. We're a hologram of memory. In fact, your muscles are remembering things. So just go ahead and notice as soon as you wake up in the morning, what's the first emotion that you feel? That's a great way to begin to remember. As soon as you open your eyes, don't move and just notice, do you come into anxiety? Do you come into joy? What are you coming out of? Just notice that. And little by little, you'll be able to just flow on that feeling, and it'll open up the memory to the dream or whatever you were experiencing.
What if we don't catch the feeling?
It's just a matter of observation, but and I've experienced many years, I've experimented with this. In the beginning, I wasn't observing any emotion, but then when I started to kind of just sit there, and even before I even opened my eyes, there's a certain sensation or a feeling or a little hint of something, a thought. It happens in half a second. If you can train yourself to find that half a second thought, you will be able to tune in to what you were experiencing. So it's just a matter of training your observation, fine-tuning it.
Beautiful. And on that note, we're going to take a break here on Spaced Out Radio at the top of the hour. The talented Geraldine Orozco and the spiritual you. We love it when Geraldine is here near the beginning of each month to bring us some life cleansing on what we need to do better to make ourselves feel better. GeraldineOrozco.com. We'll continue with your questions, manifestations, fractals, and get more into everything when we return with Geraldine Orozco on The Spiritual You. You are wonderful.
Thank you so much. Such great questions. I love this audience. They're so on it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Means they're doing the work.
I want to say a big thank you to everybody so far who has signed up for our new YouTube channel called Canada's Great Unknown. So what we're doing here is my buddy Merle, you all know Merle out there, we are putting together some real funky stories. We just started it and launched the channel yesterday. And it is about some strange, weird stories that we have collected from our fellow Canadians. So it's kind of a creepy pasta style, but it's a lot more truthful in the encounters. And it's Canadian stories only. So if you want to give a story, if you're Canadian, or if you had something weird happen in Canada while visiting here, let us know at Canada's Great Unknown at gmail.com. We are at 95 subscribers. We really want to hit 100 tonight. So if you don't mind going to this link that I'm putting in the chat room right now, we would really appreciate hitting 100 subscribers tonight. Because believe it or not, at 100 subscribers, a lot opens up on the YouTube channel that we can then do to promote everything. And we're going to be putting up new content, new stories within the next day or two. And we're just getting it going, so be patient. I know there's only one set of stories on there, but we're in the process of making everything, and we'd really appreciate your support. Because who doesn't love Merle? Merle! Yeah, just feel it. Just feel it from the heart. Merle! Exactly. Hey, Tim, Anonymous Rex, you guys did a hell of a job with Luis Elizondo tonight. Great job, should be commended on everything, and all of our audience should go over after this show and check out Thomas Fessler's show, Disclosure Tonight, on YouTube. And did we just reach 100? Did we? Well, holy cow, just like that, we're at 111. Wow.
Yay,
thanks, guys.
So great. Thanks,
guys. Really appreciate that. Much
awesome
love,
crowd.
everyone. Seriously, that's pretty awesome. And, wow, love you guys. Love you guys.
These guys are so great. Thank you.
Yeah, they're amazing. But go over to Thomas Fessler's channel and Disclosure Tonight. Listen to Lou Elizondo, and he has some very powerful words there. So great job, Thomas Fessler, Tim, Greg O'Brien, who almost smiled tonight. You know, I go over to Thomas Fessler's channel just to see if I can count how many times a night Greg O'Brien will smile. And Rob Heatherly, who is also in our chat room, did a hell of a job as well. And go check it on out. It's a great show tonight. Great show. So make sure you guys do that. But it's all about Geraldine here tonight. Yeah. It's all. Look at that smile. Gosh darn it, I wish I was... You know, this is what happens when you're at... Look at the cameras here, people. Over here... No, wrong way. Over here, 10 out of 10. Here, solid 5.4. Solid 5.4.
11 out of 11.
Oh, you
Come
stop.
on, Dave.
You stop.
Self-love.
Well, I got a lot of love, but I got a lot of love here and in my ass. You know, no, I'm teasing.
Dave, you're fantastic. And look at your hair.
I know.
As usual.
I know. I'm actually thinking of cutting it.
Yeah?
After Vegas.
No, it's still winter. You have to wait till after winter.
After Las Vegas, I'm actually thinking of cutting it.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. I don't know what to yet, but I'm thinking of trimming it down. You know what happens to my hair is I always forget to put an elastic in it at night. And it flops over my face at night, so it's like I'm wearing a mask, and then I forget how to breathe at night.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I literally have to... This is truthful. Hold on a second here. This is truthful. So my hair will come over like this, and I literally... This is how I'm sleeping. And then I literally have to take my hand underneath and go like this over my pillow, just so I can sleep at night. It's a true
story. You're
true
so
story.
funny, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks great.
I know.
It looks great.
It's all frizzy right now. I don't know why. Look at it, staticky and frizzy all over the place. My goodness.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, Thin Lizzy, I know you got the same problem. You got thick, luscious hair, too. When I put Geraldine's name up, it's Geraldine Orozco. I'll put it in the chat room. I just don't want to lose the question.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Thank you.
Yes. Brazelhoff says, I love Geraldine's outfits. Trust me.
Oh,
I've seen Geraldine in public. She is always dressed to the 11s. Always dressed to the 11s. I don't think she owns any sweatpants.
I live in sweatpants.
or T-shirts.
Of course I love sweatpants. It's my favorite, especially now that we're not really going out so much. When I go hiking, I'm wearing sweatpants all morning. Sure.
All right. Big thank you to Tim, a.k.a. Anonymous Rex, Lone Wanderer, Lured In ×2, Smithy ×2 for the amazing super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Thank you to all the veterans out there. Here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jetatura. Jetatura is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight for one more hour with Geraldine Orozco and The Spiritual You, as Geraldine owns Bay Area Meditation in San Francisco, California. Her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. And Geraldine, we always thank you when you were here. So let's kick it off with some questions from our audience, because they've seemed to really take it over tonight, which is fine. We don't mind that. Xochitl Paez, one of my favorite names to say on this show. She says, hi.
Yeah.
She says, hi, Geraldine. I'm visiting an energy vortex in Mexico soon. Any advice or thoughts?
How exciting. I love that. It depends which one, so please put it in the chat which one you're going to be visiting. But there's several in Mexico, and they're super, super powerful. The pyramids of Teotihuacan, and also I forget the name of the other one right now off the top of my head. But these two pyramids, one of them is in the west north, and the other one is in the Yucatan. So the energies are a little bit different. In the Yucatan, you're dealing with sacral energy. And this is exchange, sexual energy, creative life force, healing, and the divine feminine and intuition. Okay, up in the northern part of Mexico, you're dealing with the masculine energy. So this is all going to be, it's primarily in the heart chakra, actually. So the balance between the self, the ability to hold space for the self, and co-creation. So depending on which one you're going to, and usually the ones that's attracting you the most is usually what needs to be supported in your current spiritual journey, and that's usually what will be highlighted. What I would do is be very clear about the energy work that you're doing before you start going. Make sure you drink a lot of water, because a lot of energy is moving through the body, and a lot of people, either end up overheating or fainting because it's just so much, or nauseous because of the energy. So you need to keep a very fluid flow of life force through the body, okay? And when you're there, notice the direction of energy, how it moves through the body. In the south, it's going to move more to the left, and in the north, it's going to move more to the right, okay? So as you come into that space, notice what areas call to you. There are pillars of life force that move through the earth and create an earth grid in Mexico. So wherever you're called to go, stand in that place and feel the energy. Notice how it moves through the body. Allow yourself to let it heal the parts, the organs inside the body that need to be rebalanced. And notice the memories and the emotions that arise as you're there, because those are things that you need to work on, do some work on, like any kind of deprogramming or healing of those experiences. And it's important to do that work, because if you don't do it and you resist doing it when you're there, it can cause adverse reactions in your body. Okay, so that's really, really important.
All right, let's get to another question here. Elaine over the UK is asking, what does it mean to start next night's dream where you left off? Last 3 nights, I was in a courtroom, me on the jury with 10 other multi-species sentients, extraterrestrials, and Neanderthal-like man in the dock on a murder trial. That is weird.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Elaine, who are you? Obviously, you're someone very important in these realms. And when we have continuing dreams, you're literally living in another dimensional plane. So there's an alternate part of you that's living there. So I want you to notice the role that you play in this experience. I want you to notice what you are. Try to look down at you and see if you're the same physical body, or do you look different, okay? What you're tuning into is a past-future life timeline. It's simultaneous timeline that you're living. You've reached a fractal of yourself. You've awakened that fractal into consciousness, and now you're aware of what you're experiencing in that timeline. So I want you to just pay really close attention to the scenario. Notice, for example, when you're in a murder trial, what place do you play in that? What's the feelings in the room? Is there injustice occurring? Pay really close attention, and notice the species that you are interacting with, okay? Because every single species that you see here is something that's encoded in your genetic bloodline. It's a hologram of what you are, and you're experiencing that. If you can identify who you are or what you look like, you can identify your karmic agreements in this experience and your major bloodline. So the bloodline that runs alien DNA helps us understand our current evolutionary process. It helps us understand where we're at in evolution, and it helps us understand what you need in order to help your soul move to the next step. So pay close attention to that, and it'll kind of help you piece together the puzzle piece. It's very interesting.
Okay, let's move on here. Sovereign is asking, where is the most common areas of the body they leave scoop marks on? Are facial cheeks a prime spot?
Interesting. Although I have had marks left on my cheeks, it's not necessarily the most commonplace. Usually it's around the neck area, around the back of the neck, around the ears, and the extremities, like the arms, the wrists primarily, and then your ankles, your feet. If you're a female, a lot of times it's in the uterus, in the lower abdomen part of your body. It really just depends on the scenario. So I would pay close attention to what you experienced, if you can remember what you experienced and who was around you in that experience. Was it great? What kind of beings were you around? What kind of technology did you see? What did you feel when you woke up? What did you feel? Was your body aching? Did anything change about you when you were waking up? Make sure that you take pictures. Make sure that you're documenting what you're finding. So in your cheeks, make sure you take pictures of that, and notice the shapes. Does it look like it's absolutely healed like a scar? Or is it something that looks freshly made? Pay attention to that, because that'll help you understand a little bit about what's happening. And also, is it superficial or is it deep? Is it a deep indentation in the skin? Another thing that I would really pay attention to, if you can, which I probably quite difficult, is sometimes bioluminescent marks are left behind. So if you can somehow see that with certain black lights, it has to be a specific one, but you can sometimes find residue of these marks, and it has to be right when you wake up, okay? But it usually won't go away if you take a shower. It'll stay 24 hours to 48 hours on the skin, so it'll take some time to leave. But yeah, so it's interesting. I would also check the teeth. Wherever you see the scar on the outside of the body, check the teeth and see if you have anything in the teeth that is affecting you, and in the ears as well. Okay.
Awesome. Michael wants to know, what does it mean when I'm halfway asleep and I feel like I'm free falling? It happens a lot.
Yeah, Michael, so nice to have you. Thank you so much for that super chat. What happens actually, which is incredible, Michael, please don't stop having this experience, because when you're experiencing that you're falling, it means you're just detaching from the body, going into lucid dreaming. You're going into astral projection. So as best as you can, next time that you feel that, allow yourself to go, even if it feels fearful. You need to overcome the fear and see what happens next. And since you're quite conscious, as soon as you're leaving the body, you can begin to direct where you go next. So this is what the feeling that happens as soon as you're detaching. Another thing that you're going to feel potentially is a loud popping sound, or a loud sound that feels like something fell, or something like that. If you hear that loud sound, it's also a detachment signal. So keep going. You're going somewhere.
May I please ask what you mean by detachment signal?
Okay, so when we are in dream time, our awareness leaves the physical body into an astral state. We become this holographic projection. And so you can travel. You can travel into any of the dimensional layers, from the 8th dimension up to the 13th dimensional plane. But what happens is that it usually happens when you're between states, that it gives you like a physical residue, and it's going to feel like a loud sound, or it's going to feel like you're falling, but you're actually detaching from the physical body. So your attention is leaving the physical, and you're coming into this concentrated essence, which you're going to begin to navigate some other plane. So it's basically the astral projection of your physical body. And what detachment means is that you're moving from the physical into the non-physical form, essentially.
Wow. That sounds very powerful. Thank you. Let's go over to Obi, who is asking, what's the first step to getting out of survival mode? Pretty sure I'm there.
Awesome question, Obi. Thank you so much. Okay, so survival mode is programmed and memorized in the body. It's memorized in the nervous system. It's memorized in the energetic body and in the muscle, our actual physical body, okay? So what does that mean? That means that we have to, first of all, self-love is begin to be very compassionate with the self, because we need to nurture the self through the moments of feeling in survival mode. It's not just a matter of saying, we're not going to feel survival mode anymore. You have to nurture yourself and provide yourself support. When we're in survival, we lose complete trust in ourselves, and we put the trust externally. We depend, it can be anything. We depend on, your employer to provide you income, a stable income. You depend on your partner to provide you love. You provide on your parents to provide you, parental support and guidance. But what happens is that we're dealing with humans just like us that haven't evolved themselves or even understood unconditional love themselves. So it falls short, okay? And we eventually realize this as we mature into adults. So what happens is we have to redirect that need that attention to the self and be self-providing. We have to be our own provider, self-provider of stability, love, support, affection, even. All of these things have to be provided for the self. So take a look at where most of your attention and dependency is right now. Who are we most dependent on? Start there and begin to redirect your attention back on yourself. Whatever it is you're trying to get from that person or thing or whatever it is, system that you're not getting, how can you provide that for yourself? And work on building that daily, okay? And gently this is how you build trust with yourself, because you realize, yes, I am the provider of all things that I need. Everything. Therefore, the external illusion now no longer has power over me, my emotions, my fears, because we are mostly manipulated by these belief systems. And to break them, we need to readjust our attention. So this is the best way to get out of survival mode. Great question.
Okay. This one is from Lynn. Why do I always look so much better in my dreams? Oh, goodness, do I know that feeling. I know that feeling.
Lynn, that's such a funny question, but that it's your true self. It's who you are. What it is that we need to integrate the fragments of ourselves that are expressed in that into the physical body. So I want you to notice not just how you look, but how you feel in that dream as whatever it is that it looks like. And feel that same way now, okay? And what that'll help you do is it'll readjust the hologram of your physical body, and essentially you're going to embody the way you feel. Because right now it's the rejection, the judgment to the self, all of that has to change. That's causing this stress and anxiety that cause a lot of out of imbalances in the physical body. So when you change that, you change physically as well. You have the mastery. The mastery over the mind is the mastery over the physical body and over matter. So we can change that.
Thin Lizzie, who has beautiful hair like you and I, is asking,
nice.
I have a recurring dream. I'm a man in SFO. I don't know what is that San Francisco?
San Francisco?
Okay. And get shot on my side, can feel the searing hot pain. Could this be a past life death memory?
Absolutely. And I would also see if it's a present life memory. Because I want you to notice the memory, the dream, okay? What year is it? Notice the people, what are they wearing, what timeline is it? If it's a more present timeline, you actually might be very connected to someone because you're very empathic, you're very intuitive. So, you might be tuning in to someone that has experienced that, and potentially we may have taken an aspect of that soul into us. And so we're kind of projecting that into dream time, because there's some work that you can provide, some support that you can provide this soul, this disembodied soul. It's essentially an entity, okay? So take a look at that. Alternatively, it's yourself. And again, we are one, so we are all one anyway. But if it's something from another timeline, notice yourself in that dream state. How did we get to that point? I want you to review the dream. You're going to remote view the dream. When we remote view, you can remote view cross time and space. So you can fast forward or rewind to what led up to this experience and begin to work on that pattern. How are you living that similar pattern as that man in your life? And take a look at what contractual agreements need to be resolved there. So that's a very, very interesting thing. But you're really, really intuitive, Lizzie. So I also want to mention, please make sure that you're aware of your energetic protection and your energetic boundaries, because you might be taking on a lot from outside of you. Okay?
All right, let's go over to Kira. Do stones or crystals attract to us for a reason of healing, or are they alive?
Yes, crystals are a frequency that are manifested in the physical form. And so when we are attracted to something, it's healing that needs to occur in the physical body. For example, if you're really attracted to a blue stone, the blue stone is all colors of the rainbow are vibrational frequencies from low to high. Red being the slowest and lowest, white and the clearer colors being the highest vibrational frequencies, just like the chakras. So notice the color of the rock that you're mostly attracted to. It'll tell you what part of your chakra requires support and healing. So for example, if it's blue, it's communication, it's the throat chakra, it's also the balance of the divine feminine and masculine. So where are you challenged in that aspect, in your perception of those things? How can you heal and support yourself in that? It's very important to pay attention. And a lot of empathic people right now, crystals is a big thing, and people think that it doesn't really mean anything, but it's actually says a lot, because you'll notice that crystals have become way more popular over the past 5 years. It's kind of blown up like crazy, but it's because we're merging these realms from the physical and the non-physical. The body is learning how to heal itself with its natural environment, with nature. And just like when you go into a forest, you're tuning into this powerful healing vortex of energy. Crystals are a microcosm of that frequency, concentrated frequency within that range. So just pay attention. What color, what do you need? And you can use it for meditation and healing. I suggest wearing it is the most powerful way to use the power of the stone, because it's close to your body, and it can enhance more so with your frequency.
All right, Geraldine, we have a question from Jenny. We got about 2.5 minutes. Jenny is asking, I've been feeling like I'm in limbo. I've always been aware that a new task was coming, but I haven't felt that for a while. A lot of people and animals have come in and out of my life.
Okay, fantastic. So right now in the world, a lot of people are going to transition points. They are finding their true purpose. And it's not just purpose of, job, 9 to 5 and paying the bills. It's the higher purpose. And the reason for this is because of the specific frequency that we're traversing in this galactic system right now. Souls are finding their higher purpose because we are moving into a higher vibrational frequency. So the question is, this limbo that we're feeling, you need to address the fears that are at the root of the limbo. Is the limbo a fear of the unknown? Is the limbo a fear of not having enough, not being supported, not believing in yourself? The limbo has a root in an emotion. So go ahead and sit with that and find what the root is. And once you find that out, you need to take a look at how you're supporting yourself in that. Are you taking steps every day to clarify what you want to do and what you want to experience? And so you're talking about a lot of people and animals have come in and out of your life. I mean, for one thing, specifically animals, they are healers and they are fragments of ourselves, especially pets. So notice how the animal came and how it left. Did it heal with you, or did you heal with it? Notice the contractual agreement. And the same with the people. Did you leave them better than you found them, or did they leave you better than they found you? What's the agreement? What's the exchange? This will help you understand what role you play in the relationships. And it's your strength. So it'll help you identify what your strength is. So, support yourself and stop judging the things that you really want to do, because I think there's things that you actually know you want to do, but there's a little doubt behind there. So I want you to go and discard that completely and just dive into the things that really call to you, because there's no better time than now to do that. And it's what will bring you the most abundance financially, right? When you find passion in that work.
All right, Geraldine, we have you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio as we are going to continue with the spiritual. You cannot believe we are almost done the night with the lovely and talented Geraldine Orozco from Bay Area Meditation in San Francisco, California. She joins us near the beginning of each month to talk about our Zen, our Chi, and our aliens. It all does with the chakra thing there, but we love her. Nonetheless, GeraldineOrozco.com. We return with Spaced Out Radio right after this. Geraldine, I hope you don't mind. I got to quickly go to the bathroom. I'm sorry.
Go.
All
Yeah,
right.
please.
If you want to chat with the audience, you go right ahead.
Yeah, sure.
They're right there.
Let me come over here and look at comments. Hey, guys. Hi, Marielena. So good to see you. Bob, let's talk about aliens. Yes. What do you want to know about aliens? What would you like to talk about? Michael, how are you? Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. I won't read your comment. Kira, so good to see you. So much love to you. Thin Lizzie Borden, thank you so much. Fernando Estrada, do you do free scans and readings? Sometimes I do, especially in these kinds of occasions. But I will say that the information sometimes is quite sensitive. So you know, it depends how much you want to hear, because a lot of times it can be quite sensitive. Survivor, how are you? Kira, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. Michael, hey. Controlling craft with avatar projections. That's a great question, Bob. Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. Definitely, that is a huge technology that is used, and it actually is used a lot with cloning projects as well, because they're navigating with DNA, because crafts are sentient and they're organic, and it's encoded with DNA. So whoever is in charge of the craft is going to be, it's almost like a binding, or like a, you know how phones, like they merge when you touch them next to each other. So for example, whoever's DNA is in alignment with that craft, it just kind of comes online for that specific person. Hey Larry, much love to you. FAP, hello. Sokchil, hi Geraldine, heading to Aguascalientes, Saint Germain. I'm booking with you. I can't wait to work with you. Yeah, Aguascalientes, that's a big one. That's a beautiful, yeah, that is sacral energy. And that's a wonderful divine feminine energy that you're healing. Saint Germain is also, well, you know, Saint Germain, violet flame frequency healing. So you're healing a lot of the third eye and the crown chakra when you're there. Okay. Angie says, Sovereign, do you know of anyone that actually, oh, she's writing someone. Hi, Angie. So good to see you. Calliope. Thank you, Geraldine. What's the vibration sometimes felt between states of consciousness, sleeping and waking, etc.? The vibration, states of consciousness. It depends. It depends what you're feeling. So you're going to have to go a little bit deeper into that. Because usually we're not aware during the states in which we're navigating in dream time, unless it's waking state. So if you're coming out of a REM state, it goes quickly through the states into waking state. So can you clarify that question for me? What you mean? Did I miss a question up here? Yeah, no problem. We're having fun here with the audience. Let's see. Somebody had a question. Nicholas says, oh, thank you, Geraldine. What's okay? Yeah. Kalipoli, go ahead and clarify that for me. Some sort of headset mind virtual reality control. Yes, that is one way. That is one way that it's done for sure. And you don't even really need a headset.
Oh, shoot.
Much, Nicolette. So wonderful to be here with you.
Never good when I accidentally take myself out of the studio.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right. We have about 45 seconds.
Okay. Eric says, "Hi, Geraldine. Are you familiar with Dr. David Peter Better and the Robotoid?" No, I'm not. I'm not, Eric. Robotoids. Nope. No, I'm not.
Did you answer Sovereign's question on the screen? Or,
No.
Okay, we'll get
not
to
yet.
Okay, we'll get to that.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that. All right. 15 seconds. Thank you to Smithy ×2, Lured In ×2, Lone Wanderer, Tim, and Smithy with the hat trick of Super Chats tonight. It is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Thank you to all the veterans who have tuned us in tonight. We really appreciate you. Here we go with the second half of the show. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We really appreciate you tuning us all in. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the next half hour, we have Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You. Geraldine joins us near the beginning of each month to talk about our Zen, our Chi, our chakras, and we'll sprinkle in some aliens every now and again. Geraldine's website, GeraldineOrozco.com. Much love, Geraldine. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much. Once again, so excited to be here.
All right. Sovereign is wondering, it used to be more talked about in the past about aliens leaving rocks for abductees. Please break down everything you know about rocks and aliens. Do they make rock stacks? And what's the function?
Oh, that's very interesting. Let's see. Personally, what my experience with rocks is not really in the same way. I mean, I just remember that after my conscious contact experience, I had rocks stuck on my feet. When I came back into my bed and I was just sitting at the end of the bed, and I sat down on the floor and looked at my feet, and I just had rocks as if I had left the house. This is my experience. I don't know about these rocks, messages that are left, but I have heard some of my clients talk about little rocks with symbols being left on the side of their bed. So I don't know if this is what you're talking about. I've heard that a couple times, actually. Do you know about that, Dave? Have you heard that?
I have. Okay. I don't
Maybe
know
you
what
can say more on that one.
You know what? Sasquatch does it too, with types of rocks. I think it's a symbolism of Mother Earth. I really do. One of the great stories I've heard about this was Nicole Sakic. She actually got called out to her place where she goes and looks for UFOs. She actually saw a UFO there. Now, when she sensed that the sighting was over, she drove back home, and her sighting place is like a gravel pit. She gets back home, and usually her dog greets her at the door. And she heard her dog whining upstairs in her house. So she goes upstairs to check on her dog. The dog has wet itself on the floor, looking absolutely panicked and scared. So she gets it all cleaned up, not really wondering what's happening with her dog. She goes down to her work area where her computer is, and there is a stack of rocks sitting on her table, her desk table.
Wow.
So she believes that during that time in her travel back home, some sort of extraterrestrial carried some rocks from that gravel pit, came into her house, accidentally scared her dog, and left the symbol with the rocks like, "Hey, we saw you. Thank you for coming out when we called."
Wow, that's incredible. That's amazing. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. What the actual definition is, I have no idea, but I do believe there is some symbolism to it.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, that's amazing.
All right, let's talk to Kason here, who's in Sri Lanka. And Kason is asking, in your understanding, Geraldine, is humanity already in Kali Yuga, or is it still ahead?
Yes, Kali Yuga, which represents the death and the rebirth process of the end cycle of the end of times, for example, actually it's even more than that. We actually, in our human evolution, in our human life, we're experiencing Kali Yuga when we are going through the awakening process. It is the death of a certain terrestrial, material aspect of ourselves, the lower realms, when we depart into the higher realms of yourself, the higher realms of your expression. Likewise, the humanity is going through this collectively, more so now than any other time before, because we are faced with a major transition point between the physical and the non-physical. So the Kali Yuga is this end point in which it's a major transformation collectively and awakening. So we are in the thick of it, and we are constantly cycling through that process, micro, inside our subconscious and in the inner higher realms of ourselves as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now let's travel to Australia, where Ozzy Ange is asking, Geraldine, if you receive a rock after contact with the image of the being you had contact with, is that your star family or just contact?
It is always your star family, because what contact is a holographic projection of what is in your genetic bloodline. And who you're in contact with is what's in your code. So definitely notice, what does it look like? So I'd be so excited to hear. I hope I see you at the next group. Angie comes to our group sometimes, so I want to hear about that. Thank you, Angie.
All right. Let's go to Gloria, who's in the United States. Are there any places in nature that have high healing frequencies?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if anybody would like to check out the hypnotherapy session that I did on Alba Weinman's channel, number 133, I'm shown an entire map of the world with all of the major healing frequency points in the world. And some of the main ones in the U.S. are vortice center cores, like Mount Shasta, like Arizona, like Sedona, like Hawaii, for example, Mexico in the Yucatan, right in that Bermuda Triangle space, for example. And let's see, on the West Coast, Mount Rushmore is a vortex point. Then when you go down to South America, you're looking at Peru, you're looking at Bolivia. There are some major vortex points there. And, when you overlap them with this concept of chakra centers, each one of these vortices have a different special frequency, just like we were talking about earlier with Mexico. And so wherever you go and wherever you're called to travel is the part of you that needs to be healed in that frequency. So I would really pay attention about where you're being called. After my regression, I traveled to all of these different places, and boy, did I have major visions, awakenings, abductions, all kinds of things. I even had my near-death experience in Mexico, precisely at the vortex. And that was just life-changing, right? Because after that experience, everything completely changed. So just pay attention. Where are you called to go? What part needs to be healed? It'll show up through that vortex. And there's many more. And I talk about it in that video. So please check that out. It goes more in depth into it.
All right. Once again, one thing that I would like to say is just be one with nature.
Totally, exactly.
I have found that so much. It doesn't matter whether you're walking in nature or driving in nature. I get the same relaxed motions when I'm driving at about 5 to 10 miles an hour on a logging road and I can take the time to look for wild animals, look at the trees, look at the bush, just the natural beauty of a stream coming through. And believe it or not, and I'm not a hippie tree hugger when I say this, but if you get an opportunity, if you really want to feel the beauty of nature's energy, hug a tree and tell that tree how beautiful it is. You can actually feel the love of the tree coming back into your hands and into your body. I know that sounds completely woo and completely BS, but if you are concentrating on true love for that piece of nature, it will actually show you that love back.
So perfect, Dave. Thank you so much for pointing that out. You're absolutely right. And the tree thing is true. I do that every single morning. And it's so cleansing.
Oh, yeah. I go to my tree. I got 8 trees in my front yard, and they're all about 70, 80 feet high. And I tell them all the time how beautiful they are. And I touch them, and I just go up to them and say, you know what, you look good today. And I swear it works. As stupid as that sounds, and as childish as that sounds, the tree does react to that positivity and that love.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Vintage Beard here has a question for you. I had a dream about a bull attacking a horse last night. It was bizarre and seemed to last a while. Any idea of what that meaning could be?
That's interesting. Well, both of those are symbolisms of virility and masculine energy, okay? But the bull more so than the horse. The horse can be perceived as the divine feminine. So I want you to notice the struggle between those two things. What was around there, what caused the battle between the two, and which one won, essentially, or if there was a winner in that. I would also look at the reference of water. Was there water in that dream? Anywhere in that dream, because the water will represent emotions, and they're very much connected to horses. Another thing that I would love to point out is that both of these are traveling energies, moving energies. So if you are being called to travel or to move from where you currently live, I would listen to that, because I think that there's culmination of events coming in the direction of where you're located, and maybe it's good to move. So just some insight.
Jenny is wondering, are there any healing vortexes on the East Coast that you may know of?
In Florida, for sure, and Mount Rushmore, I think, is kind of like Middle East, isn't that right? I don't know about, where else can I see another one there? Well, we all know that Washington, D.C., but unfortunately it's wired in a different way. It's set up in a different way than is more productive, actually. Also in Michigan, and I can't remember where exactly, but I believe Michigan is it looks like a little mitt, and I think it's a point like right in between the center of that little bay that is created. That's also another major point. And I think that's the only ones that I saw in the East Coast that you can check out.
Sounds very good. Geraldine, while we're waiting for more questions from our audience, I know that you wanted to touch on a couple of things here tonight, outside of dreams, about navigating alternative planes. What is this about?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was fragmentation and how fragmentation occurs, fragmentation of the soul. So there's different ways that we experience fragmentation. One is through trauma, when we experience traumatic experiences in which we feel helpless. And that feeling of helplessness can be something as simple as someone saying something nasty to you, to experiencing some, like a car accident or something like that. That trauma creates fragmentation of the soul, and the human body becomes split in timelines. You're stuck in the timeline in which the event occurred until you go and you address that fragment of yourself. But there's another aspect of this which happens in terrestrial, and there's another aspect that happens in the non-physical. For example, when you're astral traveling or in ET contact, for example. We also have fragments in those planes. When we experience contact that's incredibly traumatic somehow, we are fragmented in that time. And so oftentimes it'll be what we call in ET contact a marker memory, which you're not going to fully remember what happened in that experience, but you're always going to remember that memory. And sometimes in hypnosis you can recover what happened there, but you have fragments that are stagnant in that memory as well. So it's important to bring this up because I had a very interesting client today that we found clones in her multidimensional body. And I've noticed this a lot recently, that some people that have specific bloodlines that are preserved for centuries and centuries, that have been used in many different programs, either nefarious programs or high vibration, these bodies become cloned because of their DNA, because the DNA is concentrated with a cocktail of DNA. And what that means is that we have access to all of the different species that make up your genetic code. This is a combination of vibrational frequency. It's also data into these bloodlines, into these species that help you understand advanced technology, help you understand how to navigate other dimensional planes, healing abilities, psychic abilities. All of that is encoded in your DNA, and all of that is connected to the different species that you're connected to. Okay, so why that's important is because a lot of people that have been doing a lot of shadow work for a long time, they've already integrated all of the trauma from their current life, and now they're going into these higher planes. They're going into past lives. It's very important to go into your past lives and reintegrate. Some people are going into their ET lives. They're remembering their ET contact now. It's important to reintegrate from that contact as well. Okay, so the purpose of our human body is to be able to reintegrate all fragments so that you become whole. Reintegration simply means becoming aware, awakening consciousness in our current life, awakening consciousness as that fragment experiencing trauma. When that fragment awakens consciousness, it changes. It has the ability to choose and apply its free will for the first time in that experience. And so essentially, we end up being a really huge, massive organism with all of these fragments that are conscious of themselves. So this is very important for people that are experiencing dreams and navigating other dimensional planes to pay attention to the experience and to notice when there's an opportunity for healing and reintegration from there, because it can be life-changing. People can heal from diseases, long-term diseases, by doing this work. People can heal the body. People can begin to manifest and remove blockages of poverty, whatever, broken relationships, families, things like this, all kinds of things. So really, really important to do that kind of work.
How do we figure out it's working for us? How do we know within ourselves that this is changing the effects that we needed to change?
So how do we know we heal is that we become less and less affected by the trigger that caused you to feel helpless in that scenario. And eventually you solidify down to the subconscious level a really profound neutrality. And the observer state becomes completely aware and in control of what it's co-creating. And this is how people turn into the Buddha and or Jesus-like states, this Christ consciousness, where you can now affect matter. You can change the events that you go into. If you have a meeting, you can use energy to change the frequency of that meeting, the outcome of that meeting. So you now become master of this physical plane, and that's how you know you're affecting it. But you can only do that by embodying a really powerful state of neutrality.
I would have never suspected that. We got 4.5 minutes left with you tonight, and it's been an awesome show so far, and I'm so thankful for this. Geraldine, for you, as you look towards, helping yourself and helping others, try and bring that inner peace and enlightenment, as we all start to come out from the situation that we're in right now, and people are starting to stand up and rise and starting to think for themselves again on everything that is going on. What is your message about healing, not for the body, but healing the mind and loving thy neighbor again?
Yes, this is where we're headed collectively, into that unity consciousness. Unity consciousness has to be programmed into our way of thinking of everything, which means that we have to stop looking at things as separate, just in general. And this is really the most compassionate way to navigate our current timeline, because there's so much contrast. There's so much, a lot of arguments and fights and disagreements in regards to things. So the more that you can cultivate your energy, keep your energy towards yourself instead of leaking it out in judging things that are happening externally, you will provide trust in yourself. You will create trust with yourself, because you're taking care of yourself, because your focus is now on your healing, on your preservation of life force. Remember that you are an expression of infinite consciousness, and whatever you speak is being created into the physical. Whatever you think is being created in the physical. That's the kind of level of manifestation that we're on right now, and your thoughts are affecting the collective frequency. So unity consciousness means being mindful to the point where you're checking in with your thoughts. Is your thought constructive? Is it productive? Are you imagining death scenarios of yourself in a car accident just someday when you're on auto drive? All of these things are contributing to the collective, and we have a lot more power and input in where we're headed in the next 5 years than we think. And the input is changed by the mastery over the mind and the thoughts. If the minds and the thoughts is running wild and in constant state of fear and survival, well, that's what we're contributing to the collective. So I think it's a matter of shifting the responsibility for what we're doing and becoming no longer victims, or believing that we're playing victim roles in any parts of our lives, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's in our careers, or even with our own inner dialogue. Sometimes we feel victimized all the time. Oh, this person does this to me, this and that. So are you able to take responsibility and you be the change? We have to be kind of tough now. We're evolving from child phase into the mature co-creator. So this is where we want to direct our focus, and notice that it is really the most compassionate thing to do, because we become addicted to suffering. We're addicted to that, and once we stop the addiction, we can nourish the body, and that's a completely different way of being and expressing. This is something that you can do.
Over the next couple of months, what is your schedule going to be looking like as we start to wrap things up?
Yeah, thank you so much. There's so many amazing conferences that I'm going to be a part of. Please check out my website. On February 16th, I'll be with Neil Gower on Portal to Ascension, and we're going to be diving deep into the UFO and ET consciousness. We're going to be discussing races. We have an incredible panel lined up with amazing speakers. Please check out Portal to Ascension for that. I'm also going to be part of the Ascension conference that's going to be taking place March 4th. And I'll be part of Rob Yock's conference who is creating a huge discussion about all things metaphysical and interdimensional.
Beautiful.
So I'm really excited and hope to see you.
April 22nd and 24th in Las Vegas. Geraldine Orozco is going to be joining us at the Golden Nugget for our Spaced Out Radio fan party. Info at spacedoutradio.com if you want to come. It's on our website, geraldineorozco.com. Hour 3 is next.
Awesome. Davey, thank you so much. Had so much fun. Thank you, everyone, for your amazing questions, and I will see you next month.
Yes, we will see you at the beginning of March, and then we'll see you again at the beginning of April, and then May, and then June, and so on, and so on, and so on. Much love to you, my friend, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Me too. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care. All right. Look at that. There's Super Duke. There he is. The man, the myth, and the legend all wrapped into one. I don't know.
I got my broken headphones on. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Mm-hmm. Got some interesting stuff tonight. The report Dave asked for, Ape Canyon, all set, ready to go. I don't know how much time we got. I got a couple of additional reports if I can actually get through this whole thing, but it's pretty detailed, so that'll probably take most of it. And special announcement that we don't get a whole lot of actual Bigfoot news. And I was when you tried to call me today, I was in secret consultation with top secret sources who are trying to leak me information and don't have permission to do so yet. And I said, well, get permission so I can tell everybody on Spaced Out Radio on Thursday when I'm on. So they're negotiating for that right now. And if I get permission to be the first person to let you know about it, this is like one of the biggest pieces of Bigfoot news in about 50 years.
Woo! I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Me too. Hope I get to tell you about it. Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yep, Ape Canyon, and then coming up, if that probably won't be a super long announcement, even if I'm allowed to talk about it. There's not a ton of information to release yet. Yeah, that's okay. But we also have a report, like I said, lined up from Davy Crockett, having seen Sasquatch, and Daniel Boone having gotten into a gunfight with one. So there's some other stuff to look forward to.
Did it fire back? Did it fire back?
Nope. Actually, according to the report, it took 3 shots to take it down. His kid shot it in the chest twice and didn't stop it. And so it picked up his son and started body slamming him into the ground. And it was picking him up for the 3rd round. And Daniel just decided, well, I got to take a chance and shoot this thing. It's going to kill my kid. And he got it in the eye and dropped it.
Mm-hmm. You know, that reminds me of the old McLean and McLean song. Daniel Boone was a goon. He was an asshole. Excuse me. Hey, Bombshell Bomber is back in our chat room. Where have you been? Where the hell have you been, Bombshell? We have missed you. We have missed you. Oh, it's like an old friend coming home.
Bomber.
I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Tell SOR I'm coming home.
If you hear noise in the background, it is not Sasquatch attacking my place. We are having a kind of a blizzard thing going on here right now.
Nice. Good for you.
Pretty loud. Hopefully it won't bleed through and you won't be hearing it there.
Very cool. Very cool.
Ooh, so that Geraldine Tiger Stripey, huh?
Geraldine was Tiger Stripey tonight. How cool is that, though, knowing that Geraldine is coming to the Vegas party?
That's super awesome.
That was a nice
it's going to be so much fun for all the fans that get to show up there. They're going to get to see a lot of their fave people from the show all at the same time and get to meet them. So it's going to be super awesome fan time.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to show up, too, but Sasquatch won't let me go that far.
Hey.
I get mad.
Just do yourself a favor, Duke. YouTube McLean and McLean. That's good Canadian stuff right there.
Good Canadian stuff. Will I understand it or do it?
Oh, you'll understand it. You'll understand.
English to Canadian.
Just listen to the lyrics and be prepared to laugh every song.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Let me make a quick dash here, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, we got it. We got
the Swamp Dweller.
Yeah, we got a few minutes. You got about 5 minutes or so, bud.
Okay.
Duke. I'm just gonna put you. Yeah, his headphones are off. Well, son of a bitch, eh? Hey, sweet Tony D. And Thin Lizzy, yes, we are going for one of them burrito things. Yes, we are. When I'm in Denver, Colorado in July, we are going for one of them burrito things. It looks like I may not leave the country without a heart attack. But that's why I get insurance when I travel south, because your prices are incredible in the hospital there. They really are. Incredible. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm going to have a little sip of water here. I was a rebel last night. After the show, I didn't eat one apple. I ate 2. Yeah. That's how I roll. 2 apples. Mm-hmm. Thank you tonight to Obi, Larry, Smithy ×3, Tim, Lone Wanderer, and Lured In ×2 for the amazing super chats. Really do appreciate it. We're going to kick off hour number 3 here in about 10 seconds, everyone. So sit back, relax, chill, and let's get ready to go into the swamp, shall we? Let's. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jetatura. Jetatura is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Let's head over to the swamp, where our main man, creepypasta legend, Swamp Dweller, tells us another spooky story.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. Hi, Swamp Dweller. I've been listening to your stories for about a month now, and I want to say you are my favorite narrator I have encountered thus far. I always think the stories you tell are fascinating, and they've got me thinking about things that I experienced myself. I am 18 years old and I live in the Netherlands, so do not expect a Bigfoot, dogman, or any kind of cryptid story. The forests here are just way too small, and the population density is too high to have such creatures lurking about in the woods. But, as probably many of you know, that does not mean that weird things do not occur. With that having been said, let me tell my 2 stories that still make me ponder sometimes. When I was about 13 or 14 years old, a new kid joined my class and became a member of my group of friends who I still see regularly. I will call him Brent to make things easier. Brent lives at the border of the biggest patch of woods in the vicinity of my house, which has an area of about 35 square kilometers, or 13.6 squared miles for the American folk. His family has a respectable piece of land for Dutch standards, and has an extra building on the land which is used for office and guest stuff. Next to his land was an abandoned property, which consisted of 4 small buildings, of which 2 were inaccessible. Well, Brent, my friends, and I, being young teens, often went to this property and hung about the place, smashing windows and blowing up toilets and other stuff with fireworks. This eventually grew out to us having a sleepover in the guest house about once a year, during which we would wait until midnight to venture out into those woods. The abandoned property, other towns, or sometimes all of them until the sun came up. We would occasionally build and throw Molotov cocktails in the concrete shed of the abandoned property, set off heavy fireworks, and one time even blew up 15 liters of lighter fluid on the sandy plains of the woods. These woods were mainly coniferous, and, for whatever reason, sometimes had these sandy plains ranging from small to huge within them. We liked one plain because it was about 3 miles away from the house, and sand doesn't burn, so we were confident enough to set off fireworks there and not cause a forest fire. This annual night got a name, which roughly translates to Chaos Night. Childish, I know. One chaos night, there were only 3 of us because the rest of the boys had family things to attend to, because it was roughly around Christmas and New Year's Eve. That night was freezing cold, and we went out to walk to the sandy plain in the woods about 5 a.m. I remember it being so cold that the light yellow sand of the plain was frozen and glistening under the sky. During the walk there, however, something strange happened. We were walking single file, Brent in the middle, another friend called Steve in the front, and me in the back. When we were almost at our destination, whilst we were talking, I heard the whispers or mumble of a woman. Just about 3 to 5 yards away, directly to my right. Brent and I stopped dead in our tracks because we have never heard something like that before. Brent often walks his dogs in the late evenings through those woods, and I have had enough adventures out here with my grandpa at night in the forest to know the common sounds of the Dutch critters as well. Steve has trouble hearing higher-pitched sounds, and was a bit further away from where the sound came from, so he didn't notice it. But Brent spun around, and we both looked at each other, confirming that we both heard it. We stood there for a bit, told Steve what we were hearing, and I shined my flashlight in the direction of the sound, but never saw anything. This made us shrug it off and continue our little adventure. This might not sound scary at all, but you have to take some facts into consideration. Animals of the woods are extremely shy here, and will run off if they hear you coming, and we were plenty loud. Also, the other animals that would be active on the ground at that time, and maybe would let us come that close, would be a moose, or maybe a rat or something. But I can assure you this sounded way too human. Brent even agrees with me that it sounded like a woman. So, either there was someone hiding from us, or it was something else entirely. The thought of my experience and what it could have been still gives me chills to think about, especially now that I'm a firm believer of the unknown.
All right, thank you to Mr. Swamp Dweller for a wonderful, wonderful spooky story. Again, we really do appreciate it. Go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and we'll check it on out. But now it's time to get a little dusty and dirty. Let's head into the forest with the Bigfoot update and the cryptid update. Here's Super Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Radio. All right, Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio is back with us to tell us another creepy tale. This one I love, and I'm so pumped up about this story tonight because for those of you who don't know what we're doing this historic literature with Duke about these amazing Sasquatch stories of the past, bringing them back, and eventually we're going to, over time, we'll get into some stories that are happening around now, but I love getting caught up on these, Duke, because these stories, like the one you're telling tonight about Ape Canyon, just absolutely send shivers down my spine, man.
Yep, this one's just legendary. And as I'm going through a lot of these old stories, I'm not picking them necessarily based on how well known they are. I'm picking them on how well vetted they are. Which ones are probably the real ones and which ones are bogus. And some of the stories you're going to hear coming up here, you probably never even heard before, and they're just like horrifying. Riveting. Oh my God. But this is one of those horrifying, riveting ones that's been vetted to death. People have written like full-length books on this one, and it's a long one. Shout goes out again for my peerless research team tracking down the best version of this for me to share with you. And of course, for this episode, it goes out to GIMP, Group Investigating Mystery Primate, and Kenny, their fearless leader, who found this version for me to read to you guys. Before I get to that, let me again mention what I talked about during the break, that I may have major Bigfoot news here on Thursday, trying to get permission to be the first person to release it to the public. And if I do get that permission, like I told Dave in the audience earlier, it will be some of the biggest Bigfoot news in about a half a century. So keep fingers crossed. But now on to one of Dave's favorite reports ever.
Very true. Very true. I'm not even denying this, my friend.
Yeah, this is a really cool one, too. Perhaps the best version of our tale here comes directly from the mouth of the witness, Fred Beck himself. And it begins in July of 1924. At the time, Beck was a prospector out in the wilds of Mount St. Helens and Lewis River area in southwest Washington state in the United States. And on this occasion, he was out with a party of 4 other miners working on a gold claim they had made, which they called the Vander White. They'd been prospecting in the area for 6 years, and Beck would claim that during these excursions, they would occasionally come across huge human-like tracks, measuring up to 19 inches in length, by creek beds and springs near nearby deep canyon. And this trip was no different. However, on this occasion, they also began hearing strange noises each evening from the woods around the log cabin they had made for themselves, which were unlike any normal sounds of the forest and that they were familiar with, and which sounded like a, quote, shrill, peculiar whistling, unquote. Yeah, we just showed a video of that on my last episode. These whistles seemed to come from more than one source, with at least 2 unseen creatures whistling back and forth from one ridge to another, and every once in a while they would hear a, quote, booming thumping sound, unquote, that made it all even spookier. One day, a miner called by the pseudonym Hank accompanied Beck to a nearby spring to get some water, the 2 men taking their rifles just in case, and the first, of an odd series of events would play out. Beck would later say, "We walked to the spring, and then Hank yelled and raised his rifle, and at that instant I saw it. It was a hairy creature, and he was about 100 yards away on the other side of a little canyon, standing by a pine tree. It dodged behind the tree and poked its head back out from the other side of the tree. And at the same time, Hank shot. I could see the bark fly out from the tree from each of the 3 shots. Someone may say that was quite a distance to see the bark fly, but I saw it. The creature I judged to have been about 7 feet tall with a blackish-brown hair. It disappeared from our view for a short time, but then we saw it running fast and upright about 200 yards down the little canyon. I shot 3 times before it disappeared from view." The 2 made their way back to the cabin and excitedly told the others what had happened, prompting them all to make the decision to cut their expedition short. As it was already getting dark and the road was treacherous at night, they decided to wait until the following day and hole up in the cabin for one last night. After a while, they managed to find sleep, but this would not last long, as when midnight approached, they were woken by a resounding thud against the cabin wall that caused the whole structure to shake and knock loose pieces of wood and dust. The men were immediately on alert, grabbing their rifles tight and listening intently to the silence that had followed that immense reverberating sound. Since the cabin had no windows and they were wary of going to the door to look outside, And so for what seemed like an eternity, they just stayed still with weapons at the ready, locked up in that dark space with unknown menacing things lurking about unseen around them. When no further disturbance came, they breathed a sigh of relief. But just as they began to relax and hope that whatever had been outside was gone, there was reportedly a, quote, great commotion, unquote, outside, which to Beck sounded like many feet trampling about. Hank found a part of the wall from which the chinking had been knocked away and was able to peer outside to discern 3 large dark shapes ambling about. But from the sheer intensity of the sound, they were sure that there were more. At this point, the cabin was then besieged by rocks pelting off the walls and sometimes falling through the chimney of the fireplace, as well as loud booms against the walls as the creatures struck the logs, and the air was filled with what sounded like the resounding footsteps of the beasts on the roof. The men sprung into action, firing their rifles directly through the door and the ceiling. And Beck says of the attack, quote, "The only time we shot our guns that night was when the creatures were attacking our cabin. When they would quiet down for a few minutes, we would quit shooting. I told the rest of the party that maybe if they saw we were only shooting when they attacked, they might realize we were only defending ourselves. We could have had clear shots at them through the opening left by the chinking had we chosen to shoot. We did shoot, however, when they climbed up on the roof. We shot round after round through the roof. We had to brace the hewn log door with a log pole taken from the bunk bed. The creatures were pushing against it, and the whole door vibrated from the impact. We responded by firing many more rounds through the door. They pushed against the walls of the cabin as if trying to push the cabin over, but this was pretty much an impossibility. As previously stated, the cabin, the cabin was a sturdy made building, log cabins, heavy duty. Hank and I did most of the shooting. The rest of the party crowded to the far end of the cabin, guns in their hands. One had a pistol, which still is in his family's possession. The other clutched their rifles. They seemed stunned and incredulous. Well, no kidding. The attack continued the remainder of the night with only short intervals between. The most profound and frightening experience occurred when one of the creatures, being close to the cabin, reached an arm through the chinking space and seized one of our axes by the handle, which is a much written about incident and a true one. Before the thing could pull the axe out, I swiftly turned the head of the axe upright so it caught on the logs, and at the same time Hank shot, barely missing my hand. The creature let go, and I pulled the handle back in and put the axe in a safe place. It was not until daylight began to creep through the gloom that the attack seemed to stop, and the forest returned to silence. It seemed as if the creatures, not yet known as Bigfoot, and which they then called mountain devils, were gone. They warily exited the cabin to survey the area, and Beck would claim that he saw one of the beasts standing on the edge of a canyon about 80 yards away, and that he aimed his rifle to shoot at it and sent it hurtling 400 feet down to the rocks below. The men then left with haste, leaving all their equipment behind in the process. He would describe in more detail what the creatures looked like thusly. They are about 7 feet tall, but there are larger ones. They had large ears and a head that was in proportion with their large muscular body. Their shoulders were tremendous, and they had slim hips. They were hairy but not shaggy. In general, they possess a very stout physical frame, but looked more like a giant human than an ape. They all agreed not to tell what had happened to anyone, but according to Beck, Hank soon started talking to people, and before long the story was hitting the news. This would begin what Beck calls the, quote, Great Hairy Ape Hunt of 1924, unquote. According to Beck, they were all relentlessly harassed by reporters, and he said that people had begun flocking to the area armed to the teeth with guns in order to hunt down the creatures, including a big game hunter from England. There are also many trigger-happy people out in the woods, and law enforcement officers and rangers were sent in to disperse them before someone got hurt. In the meantime, Beck went back to his cabin to find it in shambles, as if it had been ransacked, and was able to find large prints left behind, but no sign of blood or of the body that he claimed to have been at the bottom of the canyon. The bizarre account earned the area the name Ape Canyon, and over the years, Beck's story has been told and retold with many flourishes and embellishments, of which he would say years later, quote, so much has been written in Washington and Oregon papers throughout the years. Most accounts tell of giant boulders being hurled against the cabin and say some even fell through the roof, but that's not the case. There were very few large rocks around in that area. It's true that many smaller ones were hurled at the cabin, but they did not break through the roof, but hit with a bang and rolled off. Some did fall through the chimney of the fireplace. Some accounts state I was hit in the head by a rock and knocked unconscious. This is not true. At the same time, Beck would also add some curious elements of his own, such as that they had been led to the mine by a spiritual being described as a, quote, large Indian dressed in buckskin, unquote, and would say that he believed that the Bigfoot creatures they had encountered were actually psychic and had a close association with the spiritual realm. He believed the creatures were interdimensional in nature and had observed the group for some time before manifesting in physical form. He would point out the fact that they would sometimes find just a single set of footprints on a sandbar with none others around. And there was never any other physical evidence that they could, other than this, that they could phase in and out of reality. He says of this, there is no doubt in my mind that these beings were present and observing us, but they had not yet appeared in physical form. There we were standing in the middle of the sandbar, and not one of us could conceive any earthly thing taking steps 160 feet long. No human being could have made those tracks, Hank said, and there's only one way they could be made. Something dropped from the sky and went back up. There was no third step. This is certainly another indication of what I'm saying about manifestation. I've heard it said that many ages ago the Rocky Mountains and Cascade Mountain ranges were a center of a great civilization, and I do think the mountain areas are extra sensitive to spiritual vibration, usually of a higher order, but sometimes lower. We ourselves, being extra sensitive to spiritual vibration, probably had come into contact with the manifestations of these beings easier than perhaps the average person would have. If the true sense, everything in the material world is a manifestation, ever since the time of the first essence of consciousness forms the great void, we cannot describe different planes or dimensions of being were created or manifested. Occasionally, we of this dimension of space can be conscious of other beings of a different vibration and consciousness. The abominable snowmen are from a lower plane. When the condition and vibration is at a certain frequency, they can easily, for a time, appear in a very solid body. They are not animal spirits, but also lack the intelligence of a human consciousness. When reading of evolution, we read many times conjecture about the missing link between man and anthropodial ape. The snowmen are the missing link in consciousness, neither animal nor human. They're very close to our dimension and yet are a part of the lower. Could this be a missing link? Etc., etc. Beck was long quite the advocate of the idea that Bigfoot is not a flesh and blood creature, but rather something more interdimensional, psychic, and spiritual in nature. It all adds to an extra sheen of weirdness to the whole tale. Here we have not only a sensational story of a Bigfoot attack, but talk of new realms beyond these just being undiscovered animals lurking in the remote wild. Is any of this true at all? For his part, Beck would insist that everything he said was true and never wavered from his story, and we're left with quite the tale and historical oddity. What happened to these men out there, and what exactly did they see? If they were real, why were these creatures so aggressive towards them? Were they flesh and blood animals or something more mysterious? We can only speculate, and the story of Ape Canyon continues to be a classic case of Bigfoot lore.
I love this story, but you know what? The more I hear about it, the more I think about this story, Duke, because we got 2 minutes left. I think that these gentlemen, they are the ones who really, really deserved this punishment. There was no need to fire 100 yards away across a lake. I
agree, and I also like to point out that after the attack on the cabin, when they had apparently got the message to leave, there's a lone one watching them. And like Beck said, well, we want to give them the idea that we're only defending ourselves. We're not aggressive, only shoot when they're attacking the cabin. Okay, so what's the first thing they do when they leave the cabin? They see one standing out there and they shoot it.
Exactly.
Duh.
It's very much like Texas. Shoot first and ask questions later. You know, it really much is.
Unfortunately, that's how the Vikings dealt with situations they weren't sure of. They'd land on a new shore in a new place. What's that thing on shore? I'm not sure. It could be a ghost. Shoot it with an arrow and see if it bleeds.
Oh, man. These hunters...
That was standard procedure, and it doesn't make for friendly relations.
These hunters must suffer from Trudeauitis. Hit and run, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And hide, you know?
Well, yeah, like I said before, it's kind of my opinion that they kind of asked for it, basically. But some of Fred Beck's observations were really quite odd, especially for the 1920s.
Oh, I hear you. You know, this is still one of the most powerful stories out there about Ape Canyon, and unfortunately, it did get wiped out in 1980 when Mount St. Helens erupted and half the mountain came down onto the area where this was. You know, we got 30 seconds. Is that area rebuilding for Sasquatch now, some 40 years later?
Yeah, there's actually forests and stuff there. Again, of course, it doesn't have the same contour as the original, and the trees aren't as big as the originals because they still got to grow more. But it's going back in that direction. If you want to hear another report from Ape Canyon, check out my last show. Kelly Shaw from Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization was on there, and his grandfather had an encounter with 3 of them.
Oh, wow.
Right there in Mount St. Helens 10 years after the Ape Canyon incident.
Wow. Super Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Radio. This man wears a cape while he's talking Sasquatch, looking for Sasquatch, and dining with Sasquatch. Check out his YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Duke's going to stick with us if he wants, because we're going to warm up the Magic 8 Ball. Let's get a little psychic. Let's get a little intuitive next on Spaced Out Radio. That's good stuff. Love that story. Thank you for doing that one for me, man.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, you said last week, I want to hear that one. So it's like, well, that goes to the top of the list. Dave wants to hear that one.
Between that one and Albert Ostman, those are the only 2 Sasquatch stories I need. That's it. That's it.
Well, I guess I'm done then. It's been nice being on here.
Yeah, good night. Yeah, Duke's retiring after tonight on Spaced Out Radio.
I'm not going to tell you that Gugwe story from Canada in the 1780s when a logging crew captured one. I won't be on here. See you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Dave wants me back to talk about that in a spectacular potential Bigfoot news release on Thursday, of course.
Well, I guess I may use that one. Ooh, Dookie's teasing me here.
Teasy. Well, should I give out a hint?
Oh, no. Save it.
No hints? Okay.
No hints. Save it. Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited. I'm hoping that this is legit, and I'm also hoping that I get to tell you guys about it.
By the way, best tweet of the last 48 hours that I've heard and read on Twitter, that the variant of the 19 disease that our illustrious Prime Minister is suffering from right now is so bad it feels like he's been hit by a truck.
Isn't that the new one, the B.A. Baracus variant that they named after Mr. T?
Mm.
Good job.
I'm telling you, listeners, right now, if you would have seen the tweet from this person who calls himself a world leader today, you're lucky this is not a political show and that I'm abiding by the rules that my radio stations want me to go by. Because I would go absolutely haywire today. Absolutely haywire over his tweet today. If you want to see, in a democratic country, if you want to see propaganda and stuff that was pulled by the communists back in the Bolshevik Revolution, read what he put on Twitter today regarding this whole situation in our capital. It's absolutely disgusting, and I'm embarrassed that this man, who I voted for the first time around, I'm embarrassed that this man is our Prime Minister and representing Canada. Embarrassed.
Did you hear about the domain that Elon Musk bought?
Liar.com.
And what's it linked to?
Justin Trudeau's Wikipedia page.
There you go.
Yeah.
Elon's one of the kings of trolling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm just going to bite my tongue there because I don't want to get political.
If we were on a different platform right now, I would be the one that would be muting my mic as I'm laughing, and Dave would be going Butch Witkowski like times 5.
Oh. What I don't like is lies, and our citizens are buying the lies, or some of them are buying the lies. Okay? Give you an example. The Ottawa Police Department has not arrested one protester. Not one. Okay? And this idiot is on Twitter saying that there's been riots, violence against police, everything. Violence against other cultures. It's not true. I mean, this is a guy who is hiding somewhere in North America. We don't even know as citizens where our prime minister is right now because he's hiding like a coward.
He got the coup, even though he had been jabbed already.
Well,
how's that possible?
Well,
I thought that's what it was supposed to protect you from.
That has nothing really to do with it, but it's the fact that he ran away from the Capitol and has and is in hiding when there hasn't been any violence whatsoever. In fact, if you look at a lot of the videos today that came out on social media, all of the truckers that are there were literally feeding the homeless of Ottawa. Feeding the homeless because of the extra food that they have. Jenny, it doesn't matter about getting on Getter or different platforms. It's the fact that this show here, I can't say it because of our radio stations. They want us non-political. So that's the issue. Here we go, everyone. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Let's go to the Magic 8 Ball. We're going to get a little psychic. We're going to get a little intuitive. We're going to get a little woo with all of you. So if you're in our chat room, put your questions in capital letters. We would greatly appreciate it. Super Duke, I'm going to give you, remember, no politics here, the first question on the Magic 8 Ball tonight. What do you think here?
Well, of course, the same question that everybody else is thinking is Duke can actually get to release this big breaking Bigfoot news on Thursday?
Is Duke going to break this news on Thursday, Magic 8 Ball? Warming up here. All clear for you to do so, Duke. All clear.
Cool.
Very excited about bringing this news to you. I have a question for the Magic 8 Ball. I do. And my question is this. We have some potential radio stations in Canada that may be looking at picking us up here. I can't go into more detail than that, but I'm questioning Magic 8 Ball, and I'm putting out the intention here. Are we going to land some of these radio stations across Canada? The answer is Intel looks good.
Well, if they're smart, they're going to sign up. So
you got that right. Dumb. You got that right. I mean, no offense to... We have one Canadian station, Saga 960 in Mississauga, Ontario. And we love being there. We've been there 2 years now. 2 years. And our audience out of Mississauga has grown exponentially since we first started. And big shout out to Jody Panu, my boss there, and she is absolutely wonderful and loves the show. You know what I find funny, Duke, is there are still people out there, you know, who say, I'm not, and this show is not on any terrestrial radio stations. It's pretty easy to find us, you know. Pretty easy to find us.
And a lot more of them are going to want to sign you up when they start realizing that Spaced Out Radio is the force of the Great White North.
You got that right.
Brother.
Yeah, I got to get you to do some intros for me, man. I got to get you to do some intros. I can't believe that on a night of Magic 8 Ball, we don't have a single question from our audience in our chat rooms. This is amazing.
Come on, audience, let's go.
This is amazing to me. Amazing. Usually, I'm finding it hard to keep up. Not this time. Not this time. Maybe we should just talk some Bigfoot. How about that? We could do that. I don't mind. You know.
Well, while we're waiting for questions for the Magic 8 Ball, I can give you guys the Shorty Duke version of the Kelly Shaw's grandpa's encounter, which is about 10 years after Ape Canyon. And apparently his grandpa and a couple of his friends would like to go up to this. There was a teeny lake there at one point, which has now probably been blown off the mountain. But back in the 1930s, it was there. And it was really a long hike to get into this thing. So these guys didn't want to carry a whole lot of extra food or gear with them. So they'd wait until there were berries there in the valley where the little lake was. And then they'd all hike up there and they brought their fishing gear with them. So some of them would go around and collect berries and other ones would fish. And that's basically what they were eating while they were up there for a few days, having their little mountain adventure. And they do this every year. Well, one year they're up there and Kelly's grandpa is on the fishing detail. He's down by the lake and he's fishing away and he's catching fish and he smells this weird rank odor and he turns to his left and looks. About 30 feet away from him, they're standing 3 Sasquatch. Now, he has no idea what these things are. He wasn't up there apparently. He was in his 20s then, so he probably hadn't heard about the Ape Canyon, ape hunt 10 years before and completely missed the whole thing. So unaware of what these things were, completely freaked out. And he's like, well, what do I do now? They're not advancing on me. They're just standing there looking at me. If there's no other options there on the trail between me and camp, my only other option is to jump into this freezing lake and swim across it. That sounds like a bad option. What should I do? So after about as long as it took for him to run this through his head, he decided he was just going to keep fishing. So he threw the line back in, kept fishing, watching out of the corner of his eye. What are they doing? They're not moving or anything. And then he started thinking, well, maybe they want to fish. So he reached into his little pouch that he had the fish that he had caught in, and he flipped one out toward him. And the little one came walking over and picked up the fish and brought it to one of the 2 bigger ones. So he grabbed another fish, and he threw it out there. And the little one came and got that and brought it back to the other big one. And he goes, okay, they want fish. If I give them fish, maybe that's what they're looking for, apparently. They're liking it. They're taking them anyway. So he takes the 3rd fish, and he throws it over to the little one. And the little one comes and grabs it and goes back to the group again. He reaches into his pouch and goes to throw a 4th fish, and they're gone. Well, he's kind of happy that they're gone, and he's pretty shook up about this whole thing. So he decides that while they're not on the trail blocking the path back to their little cabin that they had there that they would go to every year, that he would just make a hasty exit and make it back there. And when he got back there, the rest of the group were frantic and trying to pack up and leave. What happened? Well, apparently they ran into 3 Sasquatch while they were out picking berries. And judging from the description, it was probably the 3 same Sasquatch. So that was the last time they went up there for their little camping expedition to Mount St. Helens.
Duke, I want to ask you, how rare is it to have an encounter with multiple beings at the same time?
It's really rare. Some people think that they're solitary. They aren't. They're always in groups. They're just like, gorillas or chimpanzees or any of the other great apes. They're social. They're always in groups. But that doesn't mean you're going to see the whole group. If you see one or something, that's, pretty amazing. Generally, it's accidental. In situations like this, they were literally going, hey, give us fish. That's why all 3 of them are right there blocking the path. Hey, give us fish. Quit hoarding all the fish. So that's very, very atypical. You hardly ever hear encounters like that, but they do happen.
It just surprises me. It really does surprise me when it all goes down like that, because you always hear people that they catch a glimpse, and it's always one singular individual. But to have multiple encounters with these creatures, and my only 2 encounters have been with 2 of the creatures. The 2 at my old hometown and the 2 up here that chased Merle, Mark, and myself out of the forest. Well, I still think there was a 3rd there, but that's to be debated because we didn't see anything. But I mean, you don't hear a lot of people reporting multiple creatures. You really don't.
No, it's fairly rare when you get to see more than one of them. That's pretty much out of the ordinary, and generally only happens with people that are doing like long-term research and they've got a group that are really used to them. And it's still rare to see more than one at the same time. Well, I've caught more than one on video at the same time, but I wasn't seeing them. They just happen to be in the background on the video. I'll look at it later and go, "Oh, holy bleep!" There's several of them out there watching me.
Oh, it really is an interesting find. And the one thing that I love about it is you never know when it's going to happen. You can plan all you want. You can set up the cameras. You can, stage and try and lure them in, But if you're just driving the gravel roads like 95% of the people are who have an encounter, Duke, you just never know what's around that next corner. If all of a sudden you're going to see something cross your path, or if you're going to see... The one thing that I have learned is if you're driving down the gravel roads, the theory is they will never walk down the road. They'll only walk across from trail to trail. Have you heard that, Duke?
Generally, it's really rare that they actually follow a human road, and just exactly for that reason, because they'll leave obvious tracks. We find track crossing roads occasionally where there's soft embankments. And as you're driving along, you're looking and like, there's two tracks coming down 20 feet of embankment, two tracks. And you look on the other side of the road and it's like, oh, there's a structure over there. Sure. Yeah. But generally they don't do that. There's been a few cases of it, and it's usually like they're just putting in a new road. They've just cut down the trees and bulldozed it or something, and they'll be curious and they'll be looking around there, and sometimes you'll find tracks along them and stuff. But most of the time, if there's any kind of a well-used human trail at all and they have to go in the same direction, they'll parallel it. Just go about 50 feet off the road or trail and start looking, and that's where their tracks will be.
But it's the same thing with animals. Sure, they will take... I mean, something like bear or deer, they're lazy. They want the easy way out. But mostly every other animal will walk in the path to remain camouflaged, just like you said, 20, 50 feet off the side of the road in order to take their own path because that's safer.
Yeah. That's another thing. If you're in an area where there's a high population of them and there's a lot of activity, you can just drive the road slowly and look as far as you can see into the woods, like where we're at. Sometimes you can see quite a ways into the woods, and we're looking for structures. And a lot of times we spot them, and we just get out of the vehicle and go walk off into the woods, make sure if it's a Bigfoot structure or not. If it is, and we start looking around, oftentimes find tracks or other structures. There's a marker. They got a trail going that way. Now we got something else we can go check out. So, I mean, it is feasible to do road squatching in certain areas.
And the other thing, too, that a lot of amateurs like myself... And I didn't realize this, Duke, until this past fall when I saw two bull moose for the same, in different areas, but on the same day, a few hours apart. And I never realized this, that how when we were driving past, we saw the cow moose in one area. She was probably 30 feet from us. And then, God. And then I saw, as I'm, we leave her, let her be, and we leave her, and I see this big black mass in the distance, and I slowly put my brakes on because you don't want to startle them, and came to a stop, and I thought it was a tree stump. Okay, until I saw the white legs. And then I was like, there's the bull. There's the bull. And it was incredible. So, I mean, if your eyes aren't comfortable with looking through the trees and into the wilderness, you're not going to know what you're looking for or even what you're seeing, Duke.
Absolutely. That teepee structure that we've been back to and filmed many times is actually we can see it from the road. And nobody ever notices it. And the reason is because you can only see the top from the road. So unless you're looking up as you're driving past, looking at the treetops, you don't notice it. And it's all these treetops all intertwined in this teepee structure. You can't see the bottom. It's too far back in the forest. That's how we spot it every time when we go through there. Because we know roughly where it is on the pass, and we just start looking at the treetops. Okay, there it is. Because it's that damn big. But, yeah, it's most of the time that they make anything that big, it's way off of a road or a trail or anything like that. You have to, find some evidence that they've been going through there, one of their trail markers or something, and then follow those, and those will generally lead you to somewhere where there's going to be giant structures, or they've got something, their water source, or favorite hangout area, whatever.
Very true. Very, very true. Super Duke, we got to say goodnight to you because we got to get to Shirky Poo's news on the show. Let everybody know where they can find World Bigfoot Radio.
You can find me at Montana Bigfoot Project on Facebook, World Bigfoot Central on MeWe, and of course, World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube, Bright Eon, BitChute, Odyssey, and Rumble.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you in a couple nights' time.
Take care, everybody.
Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. All right, let's see what Shirky Poo has for us. Here's a cool one. A North Carolina military veteran turned a restaurant meal into a Mega Millions jackpot after he used the numbers from his fortune cookie to win a $4 million prize. Gabriel Ferrero and his wife were eating at the Red Bull Asian Bistro in Charlotte, home of Ric Flair, about once a week. And last week, however, their cookies were extra fortunate. Fierro said that he decided on a whim to play his fortune cookie numbers in last Tuesday's drawing, and it ended up with the largest win in the history of the online play in the state. As the lottery explained in the blog post, Fierro bought his ticket using online play and added $1 to make it a Megaplier ticket, which would multiply any win. He matched all 5 white balls to win $1 million, which quadrupled to $4 million when the 4 times Megaplier hit. Fierro initially couldn't believe his own luck. I got an email in the morning and I just stared at it dumbfounded. I took it and showed it to my wife, and she thought it was an April Fool's joke or maybe a scam. But then it sunk in, he said, and they ran around the house screaming like a bunch of banshees. Yeah, I would too. Fierro collected the prize, taking home $2.8 million after tax withholdings. In Canada here, you don't pay tax on the lottery if you win, just so you know. Just one of those little perks. The 60-year-old, who is a retired and disabled combat veteran after spending 32 years in the Army, including time in Iraq, said he plans to invest most of his winnings. 538 did an analysis several years ago in hopes of figuring out just how lucky fortune cookie numbers really are. After plenty of calculations involving years' worth of historical data, they found it's complicated. That's it. Speaking of lottery winners, a Maryland man whose wife sent him to the store to buy pre-cooked chicken came home with a scratch and win. Well, when he scratched it off, he was $100,000 richer. The 52-year-old told the Maryland lottery officials his wife sent him to the Martin store in Hagerstown to pick up an important ingredient for the family's dinner. My wife sent me to get some pre-cooked chicken. While at the store, I stopped at the lottery vending machine, put $10 worth in the Mega Millions, and a $10 scratch ticket. The man said he scratched the ticket, and boom goes the dynamite, and he's $100,000 richer. I'm telling you, sometimes you got to go for chicken or Chinese food, and you're going to be lucky. Won't never happen to me, but you never know. Yeah, apparently they're going to go on a family vacation, pay down their debt, make home improvements, and potentially buy a new TV. Let's hope they get that TV on Black Friday this year so we can hear about the brawl. We need more brawls on Black Friday. It's been disappointing the last couple years. All right, let's see what else we have here. Let's go to this one. Kentucky's busiest alleged panty raider has finally been arrested. 36-year-old John Hawkins III was arrested and charged with 7 counts of second-degree burglary, a Class C felony according to the State Journal. The Harrodsburg man was accused of stealing approximately 100 pair of women's undergarments and bras in Franklin County. He was arrested this past weekend. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office said Hawkins entered several homes last summer during a string of burglaries and allegedly stole only women's lingerie. Following a recent lead in the case, investigators obtained a search warrant for his residence where they reportedly uncovered his stash of women's panties and bras. Some of the undergarments are believed to be stolen from Shady Acres Mobile Home Park. He was taken to regional jail and held on bond. Not a good way to go to prison. Imagine that. What did you get sentenced for? I like panties. I like brassieres. Oh, well. To each their own, I guess. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time. Let's say this one tonight. If you're an ET contactee, how often are your experience and what happens? Kenneth, my girlfriend and I are just CE5ers. I'm not sure how I would react to them. Good question. Nora, contact happens intermittently. For a while in my 20s, it was about every 2 years-ish, but at other times it was more often. Now it's been less often. Jessica, I've had at least 2 experiences that I remember. I stopped reading about alien abductions, and they stopped. Sure they did, Jessica. Sure they did. Kit Kat, everything for me stopped or calmed down after I left Spaced Out Radio in the beginning of 2020. Yeah, because we brought the woo to her. I ignored the scene for about a few months, and it was calm. Now my dreams, prophetic dreams, are back. Carl, approximately every 6-7 years, they always come back to change the chip. Nikki, as an abductee, I have contact or am physically abducted 1 to 4 times a week for a number of weeks at a time, then nothing for a few weeks or up to 2 months. Then it starts all over again. Guillermo, am I or am I not? John, in California, it happens to everyone at 4:20 each day. Wow. Sharon, for me, it's in waves. As a kid, it was several times a year during the UFO waves of 65, 66, and 67. Yeah. Let's see here. What else we got? Gary, for me, it happened a bunch when I was a kid. As I got older, it would happen like every couple years. It's like they came back to replace the implants. Final one tonight. Let's go to Scarlett. For the little boy who could not be turned, could not be influenced, send in the assassin. Oh, she doesn't like her aliens. Doesn't like the aliens at all. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Dave. Thank you to Super Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Radio for some great stories. And, of course, Shirky Poo for the news. And, of course, our big guest tonight, Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You. And how could we forget our main man, Swamp Dweller, for freaking us out with another spooky story. Make sure you subscribe to his channel, Swamp Dweller Reads on YouTube. And, of course, Duke Sullivan's World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube as well. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.